Okay, looks like I'm live. Let me make sure y'all can see me and hear me. Where are my people? Where is my ladies and my princes and my queens? Let's see if it connects here. Can y'all see me? Next here. All right, it looks like I'm officially live. Hey, everybody. It's been a long time coming, honey. Yeah. Y'all know I had to dress up for the party. Y'all know I never miss an occasion to get dressed up. I hope you guys are doing good today. It is me, Lady T. Okay, got my little crown on and everything else, and got my little olden day Game of Thrones outfit. I hope you guys like it. I was seeing some dope outfits in the Game of Thrones room on Discord. So shout out to Scully B. Shout out to Apple. Scully B went all out, honey. She had a little Arya outfit on. So thank you guys so much for coming through. Shout out to all of y'all. Yes, honey. The mother of purple, the spiller of tea. Okay. So I've been wanting to do this for a while. I got into Game of Thrones about 2 months ago when I was fasting, and I just decided to, check it out. I have always heard about it. I tried to watch it a few years ago, but it's one of those shows you can't do anything. You have to literally sit there and watch it like back in the day when we had no distractions. So no laptops, no cell phones. You have to literally just pay so much attention because there's so many things going on. And so watching the show, like it was just amazing. And it's even more amazing how a lot of this show still translates into things that's going on in modern society. But this show was one of the best written shows that I've ever watched. One of the best shot shows as far as like a television show, the cinematography. It was just crazy how much work they put into this. Not just the actors, not just the writing, but just the shooting. I've never watched a show where I literally felt like I was in the battle, where I'm like ducking, because I'm thinking a sword is coming at me. And there's just so many angles, it was just really, really well produced, and I really loved it. So I wanted to come on here, like I told you guys, once I got done watching this show, and I finished about 2 weeks ago. I wanted to have a Game of Thrones party where we just come for the Game of Thrones fans, call in. We're going to talk. We're going to discuss. It was a very big emotional roller coaster for me. And thank goodness I had my ladies, okay, who had my back, who I could call and just talk to about the stuff and how I was feeling, because there's certain episodes that just take you through like an emotional whirlwind. So it was a lot to take in. Let's see here. Shakoya Cox, thank you for the super sticker, sis. I appreciate it. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We got people calling in. I have my panel of ladies I'm going to be talking to. The call only holds up to 12 people. So as I'm rotating people, feel free to try and get in. I know it's a lot of people trying to call in at once. But I posted the information for the YouTube members, the Patreon, and the Discorders. So just, try and get in as you can. If not, feel free to talk in the chat. Let's go ahead and get the discussion popping, honey. And thank you guys so much for joining me. So let me go ahead and bring on Lady Noir. So she is one of the guests here. Hey, ma'am.
Hey, how you guys doing? I've been looking forward to this.
I am so excited. Let me also bring on Lady Rejoice. Is coming through. Hey, and which character are you, Lady Rejoice?
Arya.
Arya, okay, I love it. I love it. And then let me go ahead and bring on Lady Emily. Hey, Emily, how are you?
Look at Emily. She went all the way there. I love it.
Now, what character are you?
Emily.
What character are you?
I'm just up the red face. I didn't want to be Melisandre, but I'm one of them red witches. My little necklace. I'm trying to get my little necklace on. We'll do a little bit later.
All right, I love it. So it was a lot going on in Game of Thrones. So we're going to go season by season. So if there's a particular season that you guys, like or want to wait till we get to and want to call in, definitely feel free to do that. So let's start with season 1. In season 1, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of read a synopsis of season 1. So in season 1, we start off in the continent of Westeros, and the Warden of the North, Ned Stark, becomes the hand of the king to King Robert Baratheon. When Nord's son Bran stumbles upon Queen Cersei having intimate relations, I'm going to go ahead and mute your microphone, Emily, because it's kind of loud in the background. Okay, there we go. Her microphone's kind of loud. So let me go ahead and finish here. So Bran stumbles upon Queen Cersei and Sir Jaime. They're basically twins, and they're having relations. And so Jaime attempts to kill Bran by throwing him out the window, but he only succeeds in crippling Bran. So then Ned ends up moving to King's Landing, which is the capital of the Seven Kingdoms, and discovers that Robert Baratheon's heir, Prince Joffrey, and his siblings were in fact ancestrally fathered by Jaime. And so when King Robert dies, Ned does not recognize Joffrey as the rightful heir, and he's executed. Ned's bastard son, Jon Snow, joins the Night's Watch, an ancient brotherhood sworn to watch over the massive wall in the north, which separates the Seven Kingdoms from the hostile tribes known as the Wildlings, and also the mythological humanoid creatures known as the White Walkers in the continent of Essos. The exiled Viserys Targaryen, son of King Aerys, who was deposed by King Robert, marries off his sister Daenerys to the Dothraki warlord called Drogo, in exchange for an army to return and take over Westeros. Eventually, Drogo is killed, and Viserys and Drogo later dies himself. After Drogo dies, Daenerys manages to hatch the three dragon eggs. So that is basically a synopsis of season 1. And so season 1 to me was, at first it kind of started slow, but then by episode 3, it really picked up. So a few of my favorite things in season 1 is that's how I got to find out more about Tyrion Lannister, who ended up being one of my favorite characters. And in that episode of Cripples, Bastards, and Broken Things, you kind of get to know more about him. At first, you think he's kind of arrogant. He's, really high up in stature, even though he's short. But he says that he really cares about, Cripples, Bastards, and Broken Things, and he ends up making Bran a saddle. So that was one of my favorite parts of season 1. And then just really watching the Dothrakis and watching how they got down and being introduced to Daenerys is what I thought was really interesting as well. So what do you ladies think about season 1? What was y'all's favorite part? Just, coming into season 1.
Oh man, I know for me, I have to be honest with you. I was introduced to the series maybe the 4th episode of season 1. And at first I kind of dismissed it. I was like, I don't have time for this, But I went back and I watched it, and I was just so taken by the story because there was so many historical references in it. So that's what got for me. And now for me, I need something that's makes me think and to go deep, in a story that can go in so many different directions, make me think, and that's what got for me. So season 1 was this whole labyrinth of introducing the characters and letting you know who's what. So it's a really good place to start. And they did it really good to try to adapt the book to the series.
Yeah, and I think it kind of just started off with a whirlwind, because that's when we don't know what they are, but that's when we're first kind of seeing the Night Walkers as well, which was really interesting. And then it starts with Ned Stark beheading somebody, and then later on he goes through the same fate, which was crazy.
There's so much symbolism in this story. We talked about that too, right? There's so many things that are replicated in the story. If you guys pay attention, each season there's a replication, and like you said, the beheading is one of them. The way the White Walkers were introduced in season 1 was one of them too.
It definitely was. And Rejoice, what did you think about season 1 overall?
So overall, I liked it, but it was slow, but I liked it. And I liked when they introduced us to the characters because that's what got me more interested into the story. We got to see each character's stories and basically how they're starting off.
Yeah, and even like at first, from the time you first watch season 1 until you finish it, you definitely the characters that you first don't like, it's funny how you end up liking them as the season goes on. Did you guys notice that?
For sure.
Yeah. Because I didn't like Sansa at first. I was like, oh, she's a brat. You know, she just wants to do her thing. But I also didn't realize she was 14. So I'm like, oh, that's why she's a brat. She's a child. Yeah. But as the seasons went on, you watched her bloom into this young woman and like really develop. And Arya, you know, she was always like the tomboy. And to just watch how she developed over the seasons was really dope as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know what really for me, I think, and this was one of the things people talked a lot about was season 1 and what Game of Thrones just did on GP. Mm-hmm. They took away main characters. You know, a story doesn't usually take your A1 top list A+ characters from you. Nobody, I know I didn't expect Ned Stark to just be like, I'm like, wait. Season 2.
Yeah, I don't think anybody expected that when that started.
Nobody did.
It was really crazy because it was just like he was the rock that kept the Stark family together. So it was like for Ned Stark to be beheaded, because it's like for a moment as you're watching it, because in most shows there's always something that comes through to save, you know, the main character. You know, so we're all waiting with like, you know, with bated breath, like, oh, something's gonna happen. They can't kill Ned Stark. And when they beheaded him, I was just like, what the fuck?
I was like, oh, so we just gonna kill off anybody on this show now. Can't.
Yeah, like I've never watched a show where it's like nobody is safe. You're literally pins and needles the whole series. And then after a while, it's almost like you don't even want to really get attached to any character, because as soon as you do, it's like they're gone or they're eaten or they're, you know, it's crazy. It's a show that gives you a lot of emotional ups and downs.
That was one of the things George R. Martin had said when he had wrote the book. Is my sound messed up still?
It sounds a little bit better because it was like really loud.
Maybe a little background. Maybe it's
okay. Y'all want me to get my headphones again?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna put myself on mute and grab.
Okay. But yeah, that is one of the things that people were saying, is that they were not expecting it. Because like we all said, it started slow. But by the middle of like season 1, it's like you're very, very much invested in these characters. And even like to try and figure out everything that was happening, like even with like Theon, like his connection to the Starks. Because at first you thought he was just like one of the brothers. And it almost seems like his position was even a little bit higher than Jon Snow, the bastard. Which was like really interesting as well.
Exactly. I mean, at the end of the season, end of season 1, Drogo's dead. I believe.
Yeah. I didn't expect that.
I did.
But you know, and for me, one of the things that stuck out in that symbolism point is when she had that baby and she gave a life for a life. And her baby died, and the baby came out as what we presume is a dragon. We didn't know, right? That was one of the lives. The stories and the symbolism and how it kind of weaved in the story with the books, and which comes in later stories about dreams and symbolism. So there was a lot of good stuff there. And I mean, season 2, I guess that would be the right way to say it, just took off, I think. Season 2, I think, was one of the best seasons, to be honest.
Yeah,
well, I think, is this better, by the way?
Yeah,
it's better.
Okay. I was saying George R. Martin said that was one of the main things when he wrote the books, was that he used Spider-Man as an example. He didn't, I think, I can't remember who he was doing the interview with, but like T was saying, you always know that the main character, someone's going to come and rescue them at the end. Spider-Man isn't going to die in the Spider-Man movies. So George R. R. Martin wanted you to be scared to turn the page. Like he wanted to make sure that nobody was safe. You couldn't just rely on, oh, the beloved Ned. Of course he wouldn't die. Anybody in Game of Thrones can die, which I think is one of the reasons so many people ended up loving the show. Because I think after season 3 is when it really picked up, right?
Yeah.
It did. It just kind of, I would agree.
No, it definitely did. And I know there is like differences between like the show itself and the book. And I know both of you ladies read the book, which is way more detailed than even the show. And as detailed as the books are, they could only fit so much and shoot so much, in the show. And that was one thing that I really appreciated, like I was telling you guys, is just from a technical point of view, from a technical vanpoint, the way the show was shot, I've never seen a show shot like that. That's usually things that you see in movies. So that's what really got me, is that every time you go to watch, a new season, and even by the time it got to the 5th season, the shooting and the cinematography was even better, especially those battles, and that's what a lot of shows don't spend time on. And I remember, Noor, you were saying that somebody told you that the battles were one of the best battles in like cinematography history.
Yeah, I don't know if it was one of the HBO like after specials or something that I had saw or read, but basically what the situation was is that the fight scenes or the warring or battle scenes, some of the most epic battle scenes ever done on camera. That was one of the attachments put on the scenes. What was the Battle of Blackwater, the Battle of the Bastards, and then of course, later on in the seasons towards the end, you have the White Walkers and Hardhome, which was like, we ain't got there yet, but Hardhome
that freaked me out.
Oh God,
the Hardhome.
I was crazy.
I've never seen nothing like that. One, that was like our first introduction to really seeing all of those Night King characters.
It was a lot, yeah.
It was a lot. And then it was like, okay, so now we're meeting with the wildlings and everything else. But when they were falling off the cliff and then they just reconnected, that was just so creepy.
Yes, those little kids with the blue eyes. That should freak me out.
Somebody in the chat said it was $10 million an episode. Film budget was insane. That's so true. It was.
Wow.
It was a massive budget. Yes, it was. That's true.
Just imagine the budget for the prequel that's coming out soon.
I can't wait.
Me neither.
Everybody's excited about that.
Yeah, I'm Team Targaryen, so I cannot wait. I need to bring my Danny back.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see like how that plays out. So we just got done with season 1. So who's in charge of season 2?
Okay, so I am. So let me read. Okay, so in season 2, Ned's oldest son, Robb, has declared war on the Lannisters and holds Jaime prisoner. However, his mother, Catelyn, secretly frees Jaime to ransom her daughters, Sansa and Arya, believed to be captives in King's Landing. Sansa is being regularly abused by her betrothed, King Joffrey, while a disguised Arya escapes Lannister's forces in Harrenhal. Ned's ward, Theon Greyjoy, sides with his father and seizes Winterfell, the Starks' ancestral home, though Bran and his brother Rickon escape. Meanwhile, Stannis and Renly Baratheon, brothers of the deceased King Robert, claim the throne for themselves. Stannis has the support of Melisandre, a red priestess of the Lord of Light. Stannis kills Renly and attacks King's Landing, whose defense is successfully led by Tyrion Lannister, the acting hand of the king and Queen Cersei's younger brother. On a foray beyond the wall, Jon Snow manages to gain the trust of wildlings, while other members of the Watch come under attack by an army of White Walkers and their reanimated corpses. In Essos, Daenerys and her Khalasar find refuge in Qarth. After foiling an attempt to steal her dragons, Daenerys leaves the city.
All right, so that is season 2. And I would say one of the things that shocked me the most in season 2 was like Theon. you know, like they sent him to go to his father to basically, you know, bring help for the Starks. And I was shocked at how much like his father had so much disdain for him. And I think, and I try to like figure out like, where's all this disdain coming from? Because when Theon left, he was a boy. And you basically gave your last surviving son to the Starks, you know what I'm saying, in exchange for you being left alone. So it's almost like Theon was a reminder of his father's, you know what I'm saying, mistake, or the fact that he lost that battle with the Starks. Like, how did y'all feel when you guys finally were introduced to the father?
The Greyjoys have always been dicks. You know, they've always.
I was just gonna say, yeah.
They've always had a reputation of being assholes. How they would, with the local lands, they would plunder, and you know, have salt wives and things like that. They'd rape the women and take them to sea with them. Have all these little bastard kids. They were very. The Ironborn and the Dothraki were actually had a lot of very similar, as far as like, I guess their life had a lot of similarities, the way that they got down.
Yeah, because they were like a smaller house, and I don't think they were as respected as like the Lannisters, the Starks. So I think they felt like they had to be like more brutal and more cutthroat. Because Euron Greyjoy, he was just batshit crazy.
Yeah. Well, every uprising they had, they lost. So that was another thing too. Like, I don't think they had any instances.
Nothing. Yeah. Exactly. And the funny thing about too, and it's like somebody again in the comments said, read the books. Now, I haven't read all of the books in totality. So there's so much more that we're really not even scratching the surface on, because we're just really focusing on the series. But she's right that they've always had this really contentious relationship as being an antagonist, you know, the Greyjoys, the Ironborns. And then to see kind of Melisandre and then Stannis get into this whole situation, and then this Lord of Light, and then wondering if the Lord of Light is really the truth. In the books, there's Lightbringer and things like that. So there's so much more here in the symbolisms, and get to season 2, it really begins to get into the meat and the heart of the story, and it goes like in so many different directions, you know. It really does.
Yeah, and it's almost like also part in like season 2, the part that really gets interesting is, you know, Arya, you know, this young girl kind of just being out there by herself and just trying to figure things out, and then watching her journey. You know, being so young, and then also, you know, watching what Sansa is going through with Joffrey. It's like he just really got off on like just tormenting her.
He did. He really did. And it was really sad because, and I even remember some of the controversy of some of the scenes with Sansa saying was, you know, but it's like, this is, you know, this is the story. This is in the book. You know, this is what happens. And they did their best way they could to depict this brutally, you know, abusive relationship that she was in. But then for her to kind of triumph. But I'm still like, she's getting on my nerves. I'm still not liking her in season 2.
Season 2. Because not only is she in an abusive relationship, it's the fact that she's still acting the same, you know? She's still acting like, oh, I still need to be with Joffrey. And if I'm with Joffrey, I'll be queen and I'll get all this notoriety and power. Like, it gets just so annoying with that.
Yeah, because I think that I remember there was one scene where it's like, I think Littlefinger or somebody was trying to like see about her, and she's like, I love Joffrey, you know, I like, he's my king
they like
in the world. But then, you know, when looking back on it, she was just doing that as survival.
And we knew. Yeah, it was obvious.
But it was still annoying when you first watch it, you don't know.
Right. I think there's a little resentment towards Sansa as well, because she was the one in season 1 that told Cersei what Ned's plans were. I don't know if they touched it. Didn't they do that in the show? I know they did that in the book, but in the book, had it not been for Sansa, Cersei would have never known what Ned's plans were. But Sansa was scared to go to Rob. So it took me a couple of seasons to kind of quit resenting her for that, because I'm like, girl. But Sansa, it really goes to show the type of struggle that goes in different directions. You know, like her struggle was real, just the same as Arya's was, but they were just two totally different kinds.
Right. Yeah. And I think the reason why a lot of people kind of had resentment, I know I did for Sansa, is that we really got a chance, and I believe that was early in season 2, to see how much of a punk Joffrey was. Because remember, he started all that mess with the butcher's boy. Okay, the butcher's boy was minding his own business, trying to spar with Arya. And so he tried to front, and then when he got, his ass handed to him, he basically called for the butcher's boy to be killed. They ended up killing, I believe it was Sansa's her werewolf
lady, her dire wolf,
her dire wolf. And so it's like, why are you not taking up for your sister? Because at that point, Arya was ready to fight, and she's like,
Arya was, let's go.
She was, because remember, that's what Robb said. That was Joffrey was always trying to prove to Robb. It was almost like Robb really wasn't a good dad to Joffrey at all, and that the Hound was more of like a father figure. But that was the first thing Robb said to Joffrey, was like, "You let a girl beat you?"
Right.
Whenever he got his ass whooped.
But that's the thing, Arya in the books, Arya represents this attitude much like some of the women in the Stark family. Kind of like Lyanna and these other women. This is this whole replication of like these people coming back and replaying themselves in these storylines. But again, we got to read the books. Again, I haven't read all of them, but it's so deep. It's so deep. It's just so much.
Yeah, the third book was it was a Game of Thrones, A Clash of Kings, and a Sword of Storms. Wait, yes. 2 was A Clash of Kings. 3 was a Storm of Swords, and then it was a Feast for Crows, and then a Dance with Dragons. And we're waiting on Winds of Winters. Yeah.
Yes.
So now, one of the big things that happened in season 2 was the Battle of Blackwater. That was like my first introduction to like a real battle in Game of Thrones, and I thought it was crazy. Just the way that they were using like that, the gasoline, that green gasoline. I know they had a name for it.
Wildfire.
Yeah,
wildfire.
Yeah, the way they were using that to blow up those ships, and and then you really saw Tyrion stand up. He was like, I may be small, but if Joffrey's going to just basically drop the ball and go running back to his mother, I have to lead these people, because at the end of the day, King's Landing is their home. So I thought that was just really dope how, he went out there, he got the men hyped, and he was out there fighting. And then that's when we kind of got introduced to Podrick. And I ended up really liking Podrick.
I do too.
I'm team Podrick. And I thought it was really dope how he ended up saving, Tyrion and, helping him out. And then that's when we really get introduced to the father, Tywin Lannister.
Yep.
Yeah. So I really liked that battle.
Yeah, had it not been for Tyrion, they would have lost that battle.
Yeah.
We know. I mean, and they never wrote about him. His father was poignant on doing that, which was torture. I mean, and then another thing is, and people in the chat can correct me if I'm wrong. According to the books now, Baratheons are the cousins of the Targaryens, which is supposed to be in this prequel, the House of the Targaryens that are coming up. The Baratheons were the cousins of the Targaryens. And please, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, because there was, again, symbolism in Stannis being on Dragonstone. And, coming in to, fight in King's Landing with the Black Battle of the Blackwater. And then Tywin riding on this horse, Cersei thinking it's all over. And it's like this redemption. Again, replaying moments in the books again. So people can correct me if I'm wrong about the family lineage.
No, people are saying that you're correct. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
Just like the Golden Company at the very end, not to get too far off, but they have Targaryen lineage as well.
Yeah, that's right. I forget how that goes, right? Another
the
bastard
details, too.
kid, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. All these bastards.
At least back then there was an excuse because there was no birth control.
Right.
Yeah,
It just was
That's
what
the
it
only
was.
reason I'm like, okay, I guess it made sense because there's literally no birth control. But I'm like, I didn't even know that people was just having, just bastard babies everywhere. And they would name them like different. From what I have researched, like they're named depending on like the location. So that's why there was a Ramsay Snow and a Jon Snow. And if your last name was Sand, you were like a bastard of like the Dornish area. So it depends on the area where you were at. So it was a lot of like really interesting nuances. So let's go ahead and move to chapter 3, season 3.
Season 3. Just to somebody in the message was like, there's prequels. Yes, guys, there's prequels.
Yes, there's prequels. And we're waiting for the
300 years prior to where we left off in Game of Thrones. FYI.
Somebody says, when is the prequels coming?
Well, Corona stopped everything. I think next year.
Yeah.
2020.
Hopefully next year.
April.
Yeah.
And then we can make another party about it.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so I think I have season 3. Do I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the summary, guys. After Robb breaks his vow to marry one of Lord Walder Frey's daughters, Frey arranges the massacre of Robb, his mother, his wife, and his unborn child at his bannermen during a wedding feast, which we now know as the Wed Wedding. The North and House Bolton, which had liberated Winterfell from Theon at Robb's request, also betrays the Starks. After Robb's death, Lord Roose Bolton is appointed the new Warden of the North by Lord Tywin Lannister, the head of House Lannister, and the new hand of the king. In the Dreadfort, the Bolton's ancestral castle, Theon is tortured by Roose Bolton, the bastard son of Ramsay Snow. Damn. Further north, Jon Snow climbs the wall with the Wilding party, ends up in the south side, but then betrays them. In the capital, King Joffrey decides to marry Marjorie of House Tyrell, setting Sansa aside in the capital. Lord Tywin, however, arranges Sansa's marriage with his son Tyrion. Dane reaches King's Landing, and having had his dominant hand cut off and having his hand cut off. In Essos, Dany acquires the Unsullied, which is like the bomb. And the army of the eunuch slave soldiers, she also joins forces with the Second Sons, a company of mercenaries, and takes over the 2 cities. I mean, really, at the end of the day, season 3 really begins to let you know, okay, this is where it's really kicking in.
Yeah.
Like, this is
season 3 was jumping.
They did not come to play in season 3. They really didn't.
Yeah. Nope. No, they didn't. And, just even with season 3, that's when we get to, I think that's when we meet Brienne of Tarth.
Yes.
When she comes in that season, and the fact that Jaime Lannister just like cannot stand her, he's calling her ugly, just berating her, and then he still risks himself by saving her, from getting the R word, and he loses his hand. So that was a turning point for me with Jaime Lannister. Like, oh, he does that.
It was his arc. Yeah.
It's like, okay,
a lot of character growth.
Right.
I think Jaime was my favorite as far as like Jaime, as far as character development, was my favorite.
Yeah.
He had a huge character development.
Yeah. Sure. Season 3 made me almost forget that he pushed the kid out that damn tower.
Oh, yeah.
He almost killed a kid. He can't walk no more. Right.
Right. But then you're feeling bad that he loses
himself.
So it was crazy. And then on top of that, so then we also go back to seeing Dany, and we're seeing how much stronger she's gotten since season 1. She has more confidence. You can tell like now she's embodying the role of the queen. Like now she kind of has the same mentality as her ex, her deceased husband, Drogo. And it's like, she's not going to stop by any means necessary. And that's when we meet the Unsullied. And the Unsullied, honey, they're eunuchs. They've had everything chopped off. And I think they did that. The logic behind chopping off their manhood is making them tough and not feeling anything. But it's really disturbing though, when you really think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was another story. Now, I don't think they touched on it on the in the show, but in the books, like they wanted them to be emotionless too. They just wanted them to be complete killers. They would get them to get puppies and raise them like those puppies would be their babies pretty much, and raise them to full-grown dogs, and then they would make the Unsullied kill their dog.
Yeah,
like they put those kids through hell.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they go through a lot, but I love when Daenerys is sitting there listening to this guy just berate her and talk about her and just say all of this stuff, and she's sitting there like, just give me this so I can do what I gotta do. And once she has it, and then she turns around with her little dragon, he got the little dragon, and she was like, oh, you didn't understand anything you said.
Yep.
He's like,
what you said.
He was cussing her out too.
Oh,
yeah, he was going in
it was
on
so
her.
good. But you know, she's done so dirty. You know, and in the books they tell her, I can't remember how it comes to her. She has 3 loves.
Yeah, and 3 betrayals. 3 betrayals.
That's
too.
what it is. Sorry, thank you for correcting me. 3
Well, no, I
betrayals.
think it was 3 loves too, though. You could be
Was it
right.
3 loves, 3 betrayals?
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
I think you're right. I think so I think that goes back to season 2 when she was in that the magic house and that weird
With
looking
those
guy.
guys that look like little gray aliens.
Yeah.
I forget their names right now. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think they said 3 loves and 3 betrayals too, though. So I think you
Yes.
are right.
Yeah.
I think
I
okay.
think so.
Okay, so yeah, for me it was that. It was like when going back to what T was talking about with the bear and the fair maiden, it was a nod to the moment in the book where Jaime fights this, this bear and this whole thing with, lady, oh gosh, what's her name that fast? Name right now?
Brienne?
Brienne.
Brienne of Tarth.
Brienne of Tarth, and then he, again, with his art, as we get into the other seasons and how he just really flourishes. But season 3, again, I think it really came for the gusto, and then we get into season 4, which just really blows my mind at this point.
Yeah. And then also in season 3, we also get introduced to one of my favorite characters, Olenna Tyrell, the grandmother.
Oh, the OG.
I love her.
Yes,
She's
I really
She's a straight G.
Great
Yes,
shooter, does not care.
Took
And
it-
then she low-key killed King Joffrey. So I was here for it.
Well, have y'all seen the pictures of the actress that played Olenna when she was young compared to
Gorgeous.
her and Marjorie look just alike though, which was crazy.
Wasn't she one of the original? She was original woman, Olenna. She played in a big screen series, a British TV show, a spy TV show. She was one of like the Bond girls or something of her day. I can't remember her
I
name.
wouldn't
right
be
now.
shocked, but she looked just like gosh, what was the actress's name that played Marjorie? She was in The Tudors too. She played Anne Boleyn.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
I can't think of her name
Yeah.
off rip, but they look just alike. I wonder if they did that on purpose.
Maybe.
maybe,
Another thing
Yeah.
with season 3 too, when y'all were talking about the red wedding, I don't know if it put as much emphasis in the show, but apparently customs, especially in the North, is like if you go somewhere and you're offered food or like if you're considered a guest in someone's home, so you pretty much, that's why Catelyn was like, can we have something to drink, something to eat? As soon as they offer you food, they're considered a guest in your home. And it is like the lowest of the low to hurt someone that's a guest in your home. So that there was this
guest rights or something like that.
Yeah, and it was a very big deal there, a very big customary deal, especially in the North. So that's why the phrase, everybody just kind of like just were disgusted with them because it just was no honor whatsoever for you to kill a guest in your home. There was some old folklore story that went with it.
It was
the rat pie or something. I can't remember the details, but it was
which
something.
is why Arya did what she did in the
exactly. Yes, that was another reference.
Yeah.
As when she
it comes
them.
back down every time.
Yeah, some of those stories, which I forget the stories, the little ones on the side.
All right, so let's go ahead and move on to season 4. So we're just kind of basically what we're doing is a recap of each season. And then we'll bring in people once we're done recapping to talk about either your favorite season, favorite character, things like that. So who has season 4?
I have season 4.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so the story takes place primarily upon with the storyline occurring on on Essos. After the death of Robb Stark at the Red Wedding, all 3 remaining kings in Westeros believe they have a claim to the Iron Throne. King Joffrey is killed by poison at the wedding, and his uncle Tyrion is, let me zoom this in. Sorry, y'all. Is blamed. Young Tommen Baratheon is crowned king. Meanwhile, Sansa Stark escapes King Landing. At the Wall, Jon Snow and the Night's Watch, badly outnumbered, begin a grim battle against 100,000 wildlings. But Stannis' army sweeps in to demand the wildlings surrender. Bran Stark's visions lead him far beyond the Wall, the north, where he meets the Three-Eyed Raven. Daenerys Targaryen captured Meereen and decided to rule as Queen of Slavers Bay until she can permanently defeat the slavers. She finds ruling more difficult than conquering. She reluctantly chains up her growing dragons, who have become difficult to control. Arya Stark crisscrosses Westeros, accompanied by the Hound, but sails alone to Braavos or Essos to the end of the season.
All right. Yeah. So season 4 was really crazy. We have the death of Joffrey, and the way he was treating Tyrion was just so sickening. Like, just the way he was just talking to him crazy. And, he did that whole little spoof at the wedding. So I think by the time he ends up drinking the poison, I don't think too many people felt bad for Joffrey. It was good riddance.
Cersei.
He needed to.
Cersei's the only one who cared.
Cersei. Yeah. But he needed to die,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a bit much. It was a bit much, especially when he could only talk a good game. Because remember, he ran during the real battle. But he has all this smoke.
Yeah.
Joffrey was bitch made for real.
Yes, he was.
He wasn't like any other villain in the show, and I think that's why people would get so mad, because Ramsay, which toward the season 6, Ramsay sat back on that fucking horse and whatever. But for the most part, Ramsay would get his hands dirty. Joffrey, he wasn't. He was scared. He was bitch.
Well, even thinking back to Ned Stark, he didn't even have enough balls to behead Ned Stark.
Nope.
He had the other guy do it. And remember, that was a big thing with the Starks, is whoever doles out the sentence, you need to also be an executor.
Yep. Whoever does the sentence swings the sword.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. I mean, for me, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rejoice. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, but I feel like Joffrey, the reason he was that way was because he's a mama's boy, His mom basically raised him, and I feel like he was the favorite out of all the children, so he got whatever he wanted. No punishments. Yeah, he's a firstborn. And no punishments happened to him when he did bad, so he just kind of.
Well, incest would make him go crazy too, because he was incest,
too.
And that's why Tommen was slow. The only one that was somewhat normal was the daughter.
You say he was slow.
Yeah, I didn't like
Tommen slow.
Tommen.
He just, I didn't.
He breastfed a little longer than the rest of them.
Yeah, I didn't like Tommen. He was like way too. He just wasn't king material.
Okay, so when that shit happened with Cersei, all I'm gonna say is, had Joffrey been the king, he wouldn't have given a fuck. Tommen went up there. They were like, "No, Tommen," and he's like, "Okay," and turned his ass around.
Yeah.
Had that been Joffrey, there would have been heads rolling left and right. He wouldn't give a fuck.
He'd be like, "Guards, seize!"
Yeah, kill them all.
But I have to say, one of my favorite episodes in season 4, and I say favorite in the sense of what it meant to the story, was the one when Oberyn Martell was fighting the Mountain and died. And the reason why I say that is because it was just it really is. I mean, other stuff has happened, but these are the schisms that begin to recreate itself later. This hate that he has comes from a previous storyline in the background that's that's discussed in the books. Not going to go into it so much, but when his partner, the way she screamed, and I even think in later seasons, Cersei refers to that scream. She could tell that she loved the man, and she got some type of pleasure out of hearing her holler like that. I was like, that's when Cersei had really, you was like, okay, now, girl, what we gonna do?
That's why she hated Cersei so bad. She let her hate overcome her.
That's
and
when it
do
took
wrong
over.
to Cersei's daughter in the future season, because she shouldn't have done that girl that way. And then the way they took over, fuck, they didn't I loved Oberyn. He was a really good character, and I think a lot of his beef, was with the Lannisters, and I get why he had his beef with the Mountain. But the thing was, and what the Mountain did, he takes orders. He don't make the orders. Robert was the one that was okay with all that. Tywin was the one that was okay with all that shit. I'm not saying I like the Mountain, 'cause I don't.
With Oberyn, like that battle really shocked me with him in the Mountain, because it's like you're rooting for him because, again, my favorite character, Tyrion's life was on the line. His life is basically in Oberyn's hands. So it's like, okay, cool, he has to win. And then I think the problem was near the end, he got cocky.
That's what somebody just said in the comments.
He had the speed, and he was doing all these flips, and it's like, okay, so size does not always matter. And then when the Mountain just came back and tripped him, and then oh my God, just busted his head like that, I was screaming, I was just like in fear, like for like the next 10 minutes, I was just shaking, because you're not expecting that, because in this show, you're always expecting, it's like anything can happen. But being that when we watch other shows and movies, the hero always wins. And this show always tells you, after a while, like, do not get comfortable. Just when you think somebody's about to win, it's a wrap.
Yep. Well, the thing with the Martells, am I saying that right? Okay, so they soak all their weapons in poison. So I don't know if that had anything to do with him being cocky. Maybe he thought he was already getting weak and dying. But the Mountain was built different,
That is a good point.
Yeah.
Snakes, viper, duh.
Yeah, they always, even with the sand snakes, remember with, what's his name? Bronn, he got cut. He started dying. Like, if they cut you, which, as far as the books go in the show, it went a little different. That's where things kind of started separating a lot from the show. But there's only so much time in a day they can, put shit in there.
That's true. That's true.
So one more thing I want to hit on season 4, that we can move on to the next season. Going back to the Wall. I think we got to know more about the characters, at the Night's Watch. Because initially, I really didn't like any of them. Because it's like they're all attacking Jon Snow, and and especially the older guy, he definitely had like this underlying beef. But I think I grew to appreciate the Night's Watch more once Samuel Tully finally got some balls and he came back with and the baby. That made me kind of like those episodes more. And then there was almost like a human factor to the Night's Watch once they also allowed the wildlings to come in. Stannis Baratheon was there, Shireen was there. So it kind of just made like this whole nother dynamic to the story.
Yeah, I know that's your part. You like
and that battle was crazy too, though.
The scenes at the Wall.
Giants. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought all that shit was so cool. But Jon Snow was one of my favorite characters too. But
me too.
It's hard not to like Jon. He's just
it's hard.
He's so sweet and cute.
You know what? Somebody said there's been a few people in the chat on YouTube that got me laughing.
Me up in the chat. I'm loving
they do. Somebody said we don't claim anything after episode 4, episode 5, and I'm like,
Yo, 5, 6, 7, or no, 6, 7, and 8 were my favorite seasons.
But
those were good
seasons. They jumped the shark though. It was like, oh come on, damn, really?
I like the dragons full grown though, but I like the seasons before because I like to see the dire wolves because I loved watching Ghost cut the fuck up when he was fighting just as hard as Jon was when the wildlings hopped up on the wall.
You talking about Ghost?
Yeah, he didn't play about John.
Yeah.
And
he
he
also
had
like,
Sam
he's not about
back
to
too.
mess with my buddy John.
Yeah, he didn't fuck around about Sam either. Because remember when they were about to, and Sam, that really showed how tough Sam. I love Sam. It showed how tough Sam was because they was going to beat the shit out of him. Yeah, and he kept getting his ass up because he was like, y'all ain't about to hurt her, talking about Gilly, and they were going to fuck him up. But Ghost rolled up and was like, you ain't going to fuck him up. That's my dad's best friend.
You know, I got 2 points, and this is we didn't point on this. The whole thing about the shape shifting when you talk about ghosts. Now, remember those people that the 3-eyed Raven does it later. And we begin to understand that with Bran and them rolling their eyes back in their head.
Yeah,
and the fact that they can jump into all this different stuff. And then remember Jon Snow when he gets on the other side of the wall, he says, "I'm a Stark." And remember one of the wildlings said, "Well, why we are the original people from the north."
Yeah, the first
you know what I'm saying? That was a hint in that comment too. And I remember going, let me do some more investigating. And when I looked into that whole situation and the whole Night King of times past, and was this the same Night King? And this ain't the same Night King. Isn't it Stark? Is it a Bran Stark? And that's why, which we get to a little bit later. This is kind of where season 4 begins to have you answer some of those questions that have been like, what do they call them? Easter eggs.
Yeah.
They kind of place them in the story, right?
Well, they really didn't add it into the show, I noticed, but in the books, all the Starks, I think minus maybe all the POV besides Sansa, like Stark characters, all would have wolf dreams. Like, Jon would be asleep and his, it's like he would be hunting like a wolf. And same thing with Arya and obviously Bran. Rickon wasn't a POV character. Rob wasn't. Sansa's direwolf had died, first book though. So they probably just didn't have time to incorporate that in the show. But in the books, they, like you said, put little Easter eggs that they were, I believe, wargs as well, just like Bran.
Yeah, wargs. That's what they call it, right?
Yep.
All right, so let's move on to season 5. So in season 5, we go back to King's Landing, and Marjorie marries the new king, Tommen Baratheon, Joffrey's younger brother. The Sparrows are a group of religious fanatics who impose their views upon the city, imprisoning Marjorie and her brother Larys, and Cersei for committing various sins. Jaime travels to Dorne to take back Myrcella Baratheon. However, Oberyn Martell's lover, Illyria, and his bastard daughter kill Myrcella as revenge for Oberyn's death. In Winterfell, the new set of House Bolton and Baelish arranges Sansa's marriage with now legitimized son of Roose Bolton, the sadist Ramsay. Stannis unsuccessfully marches on Winterfell, which leads to his death, and allows Sansa the opportunity to escape with Theon. At the Wall, as a newly elected Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, Jon Snow forms an alliance with the Wildlings to save them from the White Walkers and their armies of reanimated corpses. However, Jon is stabbed to death by some brothers who see him as a traitor. Arya arrives in Braavos, where she finds Jaqen H'ghar, whom she previously helped escape, and begins training with the Faceless Men, a guild of assassins in Estos. Tyrion becomes the advisor of Dany. Ser Jorah saves the life of Daenerys against the revolting slavers who flee to Meereen on Dorgan's back, excuse me. So season 5 was crazy for me. Very emotional.
It was a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot. So I guess you can start with the Sparrows, the religious fanatics. I hated them.
But we know people like that though.
Child.
Yeah.
We could relate.
Yeah. I didn't like them at all. That old man that was like locking, I forget his name, but he's
a great actor though. Love him.
Really good actor. Yeah, really good actor. But and it was so funny because Cersei thought that by giving these guys power, that somehow it wouldn't affect her. So I think what I did like about it is that in the end, it came back to bite Cersei in the ass. You know, it was all fun and games when it was Marjorie and Loras being locked up for their sins. But meanwhile, Cersei, you're smashing your twin brother. And you smashed Lancel Lannister.
Her cousin.
Yeah, she keeps it in the family.
Yeah, so
she's like, we gonna keep it in the family today.
She thought she was Targaryen.
But like they made an argument, Targaryens did it. They were royal, you know, so why can't we? That was her because again, her father married his cousin. That was his first or second cousin, their mother. So it's like, don't judge me for smashing my brother.
But see, that goes to show what happened, though, because look, Joffrey was fucking evil. You know, he was insane. Same thing. Like I said, Tommen was a little slow. The only one that was somewhat normal was Myrcella, and you know, they really didn't give her a lot of spotlight in there.
No,
definitely. I loved watching, but that was one of my favorite parts of the season was the Dany flying off on the dragon. You know, Drogon came and rescued her because, you know, he thought his mama was having some trouble. But one thing I noticed that they didn't really, I guess they kind of showed in the show, but Sir Barristan the Bold, you know, the one that left. Yep. Okay, so he was the one, the reason what made the Mad King go so crazy was because he was locked up for 6 months by some enemy of his, and he was getting tortured and shit, made him go bonkers. And Tywin was just going to let him die. He was sick of him by that point. But Sir Barristan the Bold, when he was younger, that's how he got that name. He was like, no, fuck it. I'll go in there by myself, and I'll rescue my king. And he did. And so he rode hard for the Targaryens until, you know, Robert came through, peace was in the land, whatever. But I was surprised that when they killed him off, how easy, I was like, man, I know it was a lot of them, but I was like, fuck, maybe it was just because he was old. I don't know. I wasn't expecting him to die. I thought he was going to be around a little bit longer.
Yeah. It was a lot of surprises in season 5. I know somebody's typing in the chat about the whole Hodor when he.
Oh my gosh! I hated that. That was so sad.
They didn't have to do Summer like that either.
Oh yeah, when we found out what that was, it's like my tear ducts. I was like, no.
Every time a dire wolf or dragon would die, I cried. That's what would just, it just broke me.
Yeah.
Though we didn't mention this because you can't get everything out. Remember again, going back to season 1 when the dragons hatched, and remember, I can't remember who it was in the Stark in the north, and they saw the red comet go over.
Oh, it was Bran. Was it
Bran? Okay, it was Bran.
Yeah, it was Bran because.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Joyce. Go ahead. You can say
it was Bran because I remember he told I forgot her name, but you know the basically the slave to the family that
the wildling
the wildling girl. Bran told her, you know, that it might be signs that it's that they might win the war or something, and she was like, no, that's signs that a dragon is born.
Yeah, that was Osha, the wildling girl.
Yeah,
I like her.
Ramsay and killing her. That was crazy. Another thing I wanted to touch on season 5 is when we really got to see just how batshit crazy Melisandre, aka the Red Witch, was. You know, and I was just really shocked because I really thought that, okay, we already know that Stannis Baratheon, you know, has issues, whatever. He's already putting on a pedestal. Meanwhile, he had a wife and everything. But I remember when he was talking to Princess Shireen and was saying how, you know, everybody said that once she started developing grayscale to send her to that island with the crazy grayscale people. And he's like, I told them all to go to hell. My daughter's a princess. She would not, you know. And so that made me kind of like Stannis, like, okay, that's a blessing, because back then, you know, people would have just threw their child on the side of the road and kept it pushing. So he raised her and, you know, and loved on her. And then when that happened, when they burned her at the stake, that messed me up, like just psychologically.
Yeah.
The little girl who played,
I thought she was going to survive.
She killed that character. She killed that when she was screaming for her parents and she's like, Mom, Dad, what are you guys doing? And, you know, that broke my heart. And then it's like y'all sacrificed this child, and she was so innocent. You know, just her reading and trying to.
I loved her and Davos's relationship.
Yeah, like her and Davos.
I love Davos too, though.
Yeah, and it was like, and it's like I think Sir Davos knew that something was going to happen because he kept wanting Shireen to stay at the wall. Like, just keep her here. You know, I'll keep an eye on her. And she was like, no, she's coming with us. And to have her burnt at the stake, you could tell even that was too much for his army. Because remember, after they killed Princess Shireen, half his army left the next day. Because you didn't kill your own daughter. You don't give a damn about me.
Wife hung herself in the tree in the woods. But remember, but let me just say this. And somebody said it in the chat, and I had to agree. And the quote was, Bran, basically the greatest villain of them all. We're going to hold that there. Because remember, you know, Melisandre's all Lord of the Light, and she's seeing these visions in the fire. Now, again, I couldn't remember right now how those visions were being orchestrated. If this was the Night King, was it Bran, was it the Three-Eyed Raven? Because had Stannis not decided to, you know, sacrifice his daughter, it would not have because it was the Lord of Light. And this is where Lightbringer comes in the book again, because this is where Jon Snow is stabbed in the chest. And a lot of people were like, oh, is this where Lightbringer comes out? Lightbringer is the sword that kills the Night King. You know, thousands of years before, remember?
The dagger. Okay.
Right. So that's what the whole fire was. And so my question is, you know, who was manipulating the visions and the fire in order to have Melisandre then sacrifice Shireen to put Stannis where he was? And it was all done for a reason. And when
that's an interesting theory.
That's a great question.
Villain, it's like I forget about how really Bran is probably the damn Night King.
A lot of people thought
some of the visions were correct.
Because the name is, you know, Bran was a Night King, like way back in the day. Different Night King, though.
Yeah. Somebody said in the chat, they said that they felt like Stannis was even worse than Melisandre because all Stannis was worried about was power. You know, somebody happened to Dany, but Stannis is the one who went through with the killing.
Right, just like Dany. I mean, the same thing, that power would overcome them and consume them and change them, because Stannis rode hard for his daughter, like you said. And Stannis also, when all the other people, you know, at King's Landing, all that, we're talking about the wall, Stannis was the only one who came through. I mean, he was a dick, but I actually really like Stannis because he was, you know, that's who Ned was supporting, was Stannis.
Right.
I actually rocked with Stannis, and I really fuck with Davos. But as soon as the whole Shireen thing, it was the power that just the Iron Throne. It goes to their head and it drives them crazy. Like, there's definitely some symbolism behind the Iron Throne and being the ruler.
Yeah, and I felt no ways once he was killed. Like, you know, Ramsay's army just totally devastated, you know, Stannis's army. But when Brienne of Tarth found him, it was like sweet justice, because it was that spirit of Stannis that turned into that shadow that killed.
Oh, that was some fucked up shit.
Yeah, that was messed up.
I would get her revenge.
Yeah, right. Fucked up really bad.
Oh my God. So many of those.
So let's go ahead and get to season 6. I know people want to start calling in. So let's read season 6.
Okay.
And we'll do the last 3, and then we'll start getting calls in.
Okay. So in season 6, at the wall, Melisandre resurrects Jon. Jon reunites with Sansa and leaves the Night's Watch. Aided by the Wildlings, Loyalists, and the Knights of the Vale, they defeat the Boltons, and Jon is proclaimed the king in the north. Beyond the wall, Bran trains with the Three-Eyed Raven, but they come under attack by the White Walkers. The Three-Eyed Raven is killed and succeeded by Bran, who escapes with the help of Hodor, who dies in the process. Bran realizes Jon is in fact the son of his deceased aunt, Lyanna Stark, and Crown Prince Rhaegar Targaryen. In Braavos, Arya continues her training with the Faceless Men, but eventually leaves them and reunites to Westeros to take revenge on Wilder Frey. In King's Landing, Cersei demolishes the Great Sept with wildfire. Many die, including the High Sparrow, Marjorie and Loras. Tommen kills himself after witnessing the events, and Cersei is crowned queen. In the Iron Island, Euron Greyjoy usurps leadership by killing his brother and Theon's father, Balon. Daenerys gets captured by the Dothraki, but gains their devotion by burning their leaders alive. She forgives Ser Jorah. She returns to Meereen in time to save the city from a naval siege by slavers, then sails for Westeros, joined by Theon and his sister Yara. Ellaria seizes control of Dorne and joins Olenna Tyrell in an alliance with Daenerys.
Yeah, that's when it really for me. I think this is the season where the shark is jumped twice.
Yeah, the Bastards was everything.
I mean, it was good. Like, there were redeeming moments of this season, but when Jon came back, I was like, a zombie movie for real, another zombie movie. Like, another storyline rather.
It was like, why did Jon, out of everyone who could have came back, why Jon?
Why not Jon? He's the prince that was promised.
Okay, that's the theory that they say, but did he really become the prince that was promised?
Yeah, that's the thing.
That's the thing I can't figure out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess because he ended up being obviously Aegon Targaryen, but that was another thing because, like I said in the books, there's a whole other real Aegon Targaryen that's with the Golden Company. So it's like, completely switched up stories. But I think they had to bring in Jon and Dany. They had to bring in Jon's history. They had to bring all that back. And I don't know. Maybe they assumed that they just, I think sometimes they did miss the mark because they wanted that shock factor so bad. They wanted to redo the Red Wedding shock factor so bad. But I loved season 6. I loved season 7 and 8. But I love season 6 because I love the Battle of the Bastards. I love when Sansa
battles.
Yeah, and when Sansa got a hold of Ramsay, I thought it was super dope when Dany finally started riding Drogon and all them dragons went and fucked them boats up. Grey Worm fucked them slavers up. The ending was what it was for me. Just the season finale was for me what it was for me.
I love where Emily get into. They fucked them both up.
They did. She told the stories, and all of them was. They lit them motherfuckers up, but you noticed she didn't burn all of them up because she needed some of them to get
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then I really liked. I'm sorry. Well, I really liked a lot of her and Tyrion's dialogue through season 6. Like how when she gave him, the title of Hand of the Queen, and when she was about to hop on Drogon's back and burn a bunch of fucking cities up, and like he broke it down to her like, you can't do that. And, she was starting to listen to him and kind of understand and really come into, I guess, more of a leadership role instead of just a conqueror. And, they just had some really dope conversations. And so did Jon and Dany. He had to make a lot of tough decisions throughout that season.
Yeah, I definitely like when Tyrion was the hand of Dany, because he kind of balanced her out. Now, as far as the Battle of the Bastards, I definitely love that. That was one of the best shot scenes, like fighting scenes. Like all the fighting scenes was good, but I really like that because you literally felt like you were in the battle. Like you literally felt these swords coming at you. I mean, you watched the way Jon, was just ducking and trying to fight. And then it just really let you know that in battle, in war, a lot of it, yes, it's strength. Yes, it's skill. But a lot of it is just luck. Plain luck.
Literally.
Especially when there's arrows falling from the sky.
Yeah, with arrows, you just gotta be lucky they don't hit you.
Right. And I just like the fact that, like we said earlier, that Ramsay did fight in his own battles. He didn't just send his men off to go do his dirty work. He was also fighting. So it was just really dope to watch them go back to his castle, and then to see Sansa finally get her revenge after having been so much, throughout the season with her so-called husband, Ramsay. So I really did like that. And then going back to the whole thing with the Septon and the Sparrows. Now, when they walked Cersei out, I think that was like the only time throughout Game of Thrones where I felt bad for Cersei. in a way when she was out there stark naked and they're like, shame.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that went out for like at least 30 minutes, you know, in front of everybody, and people throwing trash at her and letting her know, like, you're no better than anybody else just because you have the title of the queen. But that also let me know that Cersei is batshit crazy and she's going to do something. And I didn't expect her to do that with the wildfire. But when she blew up that entire, you know, I don't know, building, that was crazy.
That whole shot with her sipping that wine, when she was like,
yeah, and that's also what made her son kill himself. You know, when Tommen, that was
jumped.
That was a weird scene as well. But with Cersei, that was one thing, like we had discussed before, is she really fucked with her kids, though. Like, it seemed like that whole walk, she was just trying to get back to Tommen because she didn't trust him around the Tyrells and all that bullshit. You know, she wanted
and that's
to be
all
there
she
with
had.
them.
She had a very, like, what is the type of relationship you have with people where it's just this, you know, dependency? She had the dependency because she didn't. That's what I'm trying to say. And you saw it in that. I mean, but there was another point about Cersei where you could kind of, like he says, like, but there was something that I noticed about this season. This is where all of the women take control. Because you have the Sand Snakes, you got Ellaria down in Dorne, you got Oberyn Tyrell, you have Sansa in the north, you have Daenerys and Essos, you have Cersei, who's basically about to be queen. You know, you have Arya, Theon's sister Yara. So all the girls are here. And I thought that was really dope because most of this whole series is dominated by men, and women have in many cases, just like in historical issues, women were used as puppets and tools for the men, and to see the women kind of be like, you know, standing strong after all of these fools and eliminated themselves, and then the real game's about to begin now.
Yeah,
you know, so that for me, that's the sticking point for season 6 for me.
That was one of the reasons I fucked with Arya and Dany too, because Arya would be out there fighting. Dany would be out there fighting. She'd be on top of a dragon, but she'd be out there blowing shit up. She got her hands dirty too.
She did.
So let's go ahead and move on to season 7. Who has season 7?
I do. I'm going to read kind of the summary of season 7. For me, this is where I think everybody in the world was just really beginning to lose their minds, because we know it's over now. We had 2 seasons left. So it starts out with Daenerys arrives in Westeros and takes over Dragonstone. She plans to overthrow Cersei, but Jon arrives instead to save Westeros from the White Walkers. The two fall in love and together venture beyond the wall to prove the threat of the White Walkers. The Night King leaders of the White Walkers kills and reanimates Daenerys' dragon Viserion, which I remember watching it like, oh my God, which was amazing. During the mission, Jon and Daenerys then attempt to persuade Cersei to join their cause by showing the existence of a wife they had captured, but she has her own plans to increase control over the continent. At Winterfell, Sansa is reunited with her siblings Arya and Bran when the Lord Protector of the Vale, Peter Baelish, begins to turn the Stark children against one another. They manage to have him executed, which was legend. In a vision, Bran sees that his aunt Lyanna was in fact married to Prince Rhaegar, and that Jon's real name is Aerion Targaryen, making him the true heir of Iron Throne. After his sister Yara is kidnapped by his uncle Euron, Theon sets out to save her. The Night King demolishes the section of the wall with the help of the reanimated Viserion, allowing the White Walkers and the army of the dead to pass through the 7 kingdoms. And I again remember that last season, that last episode, when that wall came down and he was roaring and that blue fly.
I know, and he was fun.
We were like, oh my gosh. Yeah, it was a moment. Definitely.
I wasn't expecting the blue fire. I was not.
It was like it's hotter than red fire, and I think Neil deGrasse Tyson got in on it.
I was just like, why is he flying so damn fast? Why does he get to fly faster than Rhaegal and Drogon? Now, at the end of the day, none of them fuck with Drogon. Drogon's the biggest, baddest dragon, but he tried it.
Yeah, he did try it, yeah.
He tried.
That's true. That's true. But for me, I just think that to see Peter Baelish die the way he did on his knees begging, the White Walker Cersei. I mean, we all thought this is how it ends. Cersei's gonna come together. I mean, if you read the books, you kind of knew different. But we're like, yes, it's gonna be the fight to the finish. We all expecting this dope battle. And then Cersei, Tyrion was like, I really thought this girl was gonna send y'all some help.
Even Sansa told him, "You stupid." You know, one thing though
Sansa right to Tyrion, right? You're right.
Yeah, she was like, "I used to think you were so smart. You dumb as hell." If you believe her. But one thing, I can't remember the name of that battle, but it was where they really saw how Dany was not fucking around in season 7. It was where she was mad as hell because they had just killed Olenna, and that was when she told Jaime it was me, bitch.
Yeah,
and,
I remember that.
Oh yeah,
I
when the first time we saw the dragons, and
it was so dope. The Dothraki were standing on top of the horses with the arrows.
Yeah,
that was another good battle.
Yeah, Jaime was like, "Oh, we can hold him off," and then that's when they heard Drogon come through and fuck them up so
they were
bad.
Like,
those people were shit. She even showed him shaking.
And how Jaime tried to run into the dragon mouth, like, I want to die anyway, to hell with it. And then old boy came and knocked him off.
That was when Dany lit up, what's his name? Sam. Dickon.
The Tarleys.
The Tarleys.
Yeah, the Tarleys.
Yeah, that's when they started kind of being like, all right, Dany, chill out now. Kind of.
And that really, to be honest with you, I think that action came back to haunt her. Because remember, Jon and Sam was like this.
Yep.
And the fact that he told her that even though his dad treated him like shit, killed his brother and his dad, and how hurt he was to see that. That bothered Jon a lot. And I feel like for me, Jon was like, I don't know about this.
Well, that's Sam told him. He was like, would you have done it? And he was like, I've killed a lot of people. He's like, you've also showed mercy to a lot of people. Because Tyrion was sitting there like, Dany, no, don't do this.
Right.
Don't do this. Dany, you're Grace. You're Grace. And she just like looked at him like, shut the fuck up, Tyrion. I'm lighting their asses up. And then everybody bowed down and she walked off. And that's, I think, when shit started clicking in her head. Like, you know what? I can do whatever the fuck I want.
She's like, wow, I'm here. Y'all scared. I burnt y'all up. I won. Yay. Y'all running. Y'all go to y'all friends.
Yeah, let them know.
Let them know we burn things over on this side.
We burn things up. But
so who has season 8?
Me. I got season 8.
Okay, so go ahead. Let's get to season 8.
Okay. All right. The final season depicts the culmination of the series' 2 primary conflicts: the Great War against the Army of the Dead and the last war for control of the Iron Throne. In the first half of the season, Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen and many of the main characters converge at Winterfell to face the dead during the battle. Bran lures the Night King into open, where Arya destroys him. The army of White Walkers and Whites crumble. Meanwhile, Cersei Lannister remains in King's Landing and strengthens her forces to set traps for weakened Daenerys. The second half of the season resumes the war for the throne as Daenerys suffers losses until the final assault King's Landing upon Drogon, her last dragon. She defeats Cersei's forces, burns the city, and kills Cersei and her brother Jaime. Daenerys vows to liberate, in quotations, the whole world as she has liberated the capital of Westeros. Unable to sway her from her destructive path, and agonized Jon kills her. Drogon flies away with her body. Nobody knows where the fuck he went. We're all wondering. The leaders of Westeros choose Bran Stark as king, who grants the North independence and appoints Tyrion his hand. Sansa Stark is crowned Queen of the North, and Arya sails west, and Jon leads the wildlings north of the Wall.
Yeah, season 8 started off really strong to me. I see there's so many mixed reactions. Some people are like, I don't even acknowledge season 8. Some people are like,
the whole chat is like, what is season 8?
Can
They
we
don't recognize
it
it.
so strong with
I
the
like
whole
season
battle with the White Walkers and trying to figure out, you know, how they're gonna defeat the Night King. So it's like you were on the edge of your seat, but that finale was a doozy.
It was a little underwhelming. The brand. Now, I will say, the Bells is my favorite episode in the entire series. Whenever Danny shows up, her and Drogon fuck shit up, and then she goes crazy, burns the city alive. I really loved.
Yeah, that was good. No lie.
They showed what it was like. This is war. This is what it's really like. Even it don't matter. As a normal person, like say most, you know, us, that's what war would be like for us. We're on the ground. We're not the ones flying the dragons and shit like that, you know? So it showed what war really was, whether you're the good guys or the bad guys, how bad it really fucks with you. And showing Danny lose it and just how it, like Tyrion, how that season broke Danny down. It broke Tyrion down. It broke Jon down. I mean, there's so many different characters that really it just showed them being pushed to their limits. I see why they needed therapy after.
Right, exactly.
I needed it. I love the Bells though. That was one of my favorite episodes.
I have to agree with you on that.
Yeah.
I take that back.
Yeah.
And then the Golden Company, I wish they would have added in something about their Targaryen lineage, but they didn't. But I thought it was so fucking dope where they were all standing up front and then they they heard a little bit of noise and they turn around and it's Danny and the dragon and they blow their ass.
That was it was the only nod that they were willing to give to the Golden Company, because like Cersei was like, where are the elephants? Where is this? You know, the Golden Company and the books rode strong. So
they didn't play.
They didn't have the budget. Remember, that was one of the many complaints. You know, and you couldn't do it, but they didn't. That's as much they could do for the Golden Company.
Yeah, and the Golden Company was actually on the Targaryen side. In the
they
books.
were. It was another bastard kid. Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't. Well, actually, it was what's his name? It was the Dornish princess, the Oberyn's sister that he was why he had all that smoke with the mountain, the one that they killed. It was the Dornish princess and John's dad. What's his name? It was Viserion. What is Rhaegar? Rhaegar Targaryen?
Rhaegar,
yeah. So it was Rhaegar and the Dornish girl's son.
That's
Aegon.
right, because that was his wife. They were supposed to be doing something with them.
Yeah, they switched the babies.
The dad was going.
Switched the babies.
Right.
And Aegon was with the Golden Company. And the Golden Company didn't fuck around. And it was actually the leader of the Golden Company that got that grayscale shit on him. So he was just trying to get Aegon straight before... but they put that on. They switched things up and stuff, but still,
they did the best they could with the limited thing that they had, and I gave them credit. But a lot of people, I have to agree, there was so much more they could have did with season 7 and season 8 because Dan and Dave was rushing to hurry up and finish. That was the thing.
I think
they were.
They could have. For me, I didn't like how Danny turned into the Mad Queen. I know, like somebody else was saying, that ruined the character for me, because by the time 7 and 8 came, she kind of had like this whole, I'm trying to save the world syndrome. And, like I understand that it's war, but when you're like just killing innocent people, like she had already won. She had already destroyed Red Rock and all that stuff with Cersei. And, but when she kept, like at first it was like, oh my God, this is badass. We see the flames and the dragons. And it was like, okay. And she was trying to avenge her friend, because we all know Missandei from the island of Narth and my Grey Worm voice, they ended up beheading her. And that was one of the last things that Missandei said. She was like, Dacarius. That was like a sign to me to tell Danny to go ahead and turn stuff down. And it almost kind of reminded me of, if you guys ever seen Baby Boy, that scene in Baby Boy where Tyrese and Sweet Pea, they're beating those dudes with the belt. And at first it's kind of funny because he's like, oh, y'all ain't got no daddy. I'm going to teach you some respect for your elders. And then it starts not being funny. It starts to get disturbing. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but like,
I gotta go back. I feel like
that's how I felt with the whole season 8 part. At first it was like, okay, cool. She's burning the Red Keep and she's burning, you know, certain things that have to do with the royal family. But then when she was literally burning houses and you're seeing villagers screaming and children, that kind of
yeah.
Yeah, so
it
that
was a really
kind of
hard
made me feel like she's the Mad Queen at this point.
Yeah, she turned into the Mad Queen for sure.
Mhm.
But you know what the thing about it is, and again, this goes back to the books. You know, they flip a coin on the Targaryen. That was number one. Two, she was pushed. But this was another debate that kind of happened in the circles, you know, during and after the show. Was she doing anything that a man hadn't done? And would, you know, do we judge women more harshly? Because had that been John, we'd have been like, yeah, he rules. But, you know, because it was her, you know, are we looking at like because she's a woman, she should be more maternal and caring? Like a lot of people were trying to make that thing.
That is a good point.
With Cersei, same thing with Cersei. And then again, I go back to the Lord of Light and the fire and this cleansing. Like there's so many different things going on with that, but I know we will probably get more into that when we get into the prequels, whenever that happens. But yeah.
Well, I mean, Aegon the Conqueror, her, you know, just her relative. I mean, that's what he did. He told people, okay, you can surrender if you want. And if they didn't surrender, he lit them the fuck up. But
Harrenhal.
Yeah, exactly. Harrenhal. But when Tyrion was talking to Jon and, you know, he was, you know, talking sense into him and he asked him, would you have done it? And Jon's answer was no, I wouldn't have. And I honestly don't think Jon would have.
No,
Because I don't think Jon didn't give a fuck about ruling.
He didn't.
So let me go ahead and bring on some other callers here since we've kind of broke down all the seasons. So I know we have a lot of people on hold here. So let me go ahead and bring some people on. Let's see here.
I'm going to see you guys later. I got a class to teach.
Okay. Thanks, sis, for coming.
Bye. Have fun. I'll try to pop back in if you guys are still in here. I'll try to pop back in later.
Okay.
Bye, everybody. Have fun.
So let me go ahead and bring on who is next in line? So I could just kind of move. 10-4 Rican. I'm gonna add you to the stream. Hey, how are you?
Hey guys.
I know you're a Game of Thrones fan. You would send me pictures. You got a chance to go see the real Iron Throne.
My God.
Oh, you name it, I got it. Got a map.
She's like, I'm gonna show you everything.
You're not playing.
She ain't playing. She got everything.
Comic-Con, guys. Comic-Con. That's where you get all this stuff.
I know that's right.
That.
Oh, that's dope.
And as you could see, like it has like the illustrations in it and stuff like that.
I love it. So what was your favorite scene or character, 10-4 Rican?
I had a few. Hodor, of course. Hodor!
Yes.
My old coworker, one Christmas was actually given by one of his friends a Hodor door holder.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like we were obsessed. Like I've actually like was ready to like fight family members and stuff like when they were talking through it. Like, no, you cannot talk during Game of Thrones. Get out! Like,
right.
Yeah.
Missandei and Grey Worm. Grey Worm is just so badass. I loved him from start to finish, and I also felt like he was like the most consistent character. You know, like I like with season 8, like a lot of people, I felt like it was rushed. But like Grey Worm stayed real from start to finish. I was a big Jon Snow fan too. I loved Ygritte. Who else? There was so many characters that I loved and despised at the same time. When Ned Stark died, oh my God. Like the Red Wedding, I really felt like I should have gotten therapy after that episode.
Yeah, the Red Wedding was crazy because you just weren't expecting it at all.
there's like a famous YouTube video that went viral of this girl like going bat, you know what, crazy. Like throwing herself, and she's like, "You're gonna do that to the Starks!" And it's like throwing herself back and like breaking stuff in her room. It is hilarious. I'm like, yeah, that's how I felt.
So now let me ask you, how did you feel? Because one of the favorite characters that I ended up liking after the fact was the Hound. Like at first he like creeped me out and I didn't really know what his angle was, but by the end of the series, I really did like him. Am I the only person who ended up liking the Hound?
To me, he was misunderstood.
Yeah.
Like the way him and his brother, the Mountain, were brought up. Honestly, that would be anybody that grew up the way they grew up, they would not be right in the head. But the fact that he saved Sansa from getting the R word, because I know we're on YouTube, so I can't really say certain words. The R word, that kind of showed me that he wasn't just evil, as compared to Joffrey, who was a sociopath through and through.
Right.
Joffrey gave John Wayne Gacy vibes, like, but it also kind of showed to me, like, the one thing that I love about Game of Thrones is, to me, even though it's fantasy, the way it's written, like, this is our world. Like, nobody is 100% perfect. Each of us have a dark side. That's what I loved about the show. That I was like, no, this is the realest that you could get on TV. Like, yes, we have magic and dragons and zombies, but it's like, you take that out, like, nah, this is real life.
Yeah, because there's a little bit of everybody there. I mean, you had the thieves and the prostitutes and you had people that were so-called lower class, high class, the wildlings. There was people that you could see in these different characters and people that in your everyday life.
Yeah. Also, Davos was one of my favorite characters. Of course, Tyrion. Love Tyrion. But Davos was also one of my favorite characters because even though he was like a thief and pirate, his heart was good. Right. And it just kind of got messed up because everyone that he like tried to follow and stuff, it's like they all kind of let him down, especially like when he went to the bank and was like riding. To me, that reminded me of like our top banking people. Like the fact that they pay for these wars in these different areas. Like I was like, this is us. This is our banking system. This is like how the world is currently run in real life.
Yeah, I thought that was dope too when they were meeting with the bankers and how they fund the wars. That did kind of remind me of like the life that we're living right now, where, you have all these shadowy figures who are behind a lot of these wars. You'll have countries where they claim they can't afford food and the people are starving, but who's bringing them these huge machine guns and grenades and all that stuff because it benefits the people who truly have money.
Yeah. But yeah, even though I cannot stand season 8, that battle, like that final battle with the White Walkers and Melisandre somewhat, doing good at the end, but I still can't forgive her. Yeah. I am still traumatized, by the way, of when she took off that necklace. I'm like, don't ever take it off again, ever.
Oh, and she turned into like 105-year-old woman.
Oh, that was another traumatizing moment for me. I'm like, don't ever take it off again. Keep it on. Glue it on. She should have Gorilla glued it on. Seriously. Don't ever take it off again. But yeah, crazy. Like, the one thing that was a big complaint, I don't know if you guys remember, is that you couldn't really see the battle. And I get that they were trying to make it realistic, but I'm like, yeah, but we want to see the battle. Like, if we're seeing zombies coming at us, like, we want to kind of see the zombies. Like, I get that you're trying to go for it was too dark and stuff. Aside from that, I loved every single battle. Like, it incredible cinematography. That's all I could say. Just incredible.
Yeah, it definitely was. It definitely was. Well, thank you so much for calling in and sharing your thoughts on Game of Thrones. I'm going to go ahead and bring on the next caller.
Okay. Bye,
all right. Talk to you later, sis. Let me go ahead and bring on Asia. Hey, Asia. So what was your favorite character episode in Game of Thrones? Yeah, we can hear you.
can't hear you.
You can't hear us?
Hold on.
Ooh. All right, let me try. Let me come back. Rhea, I'm going to go ahead and add you to the stream.
Oh my. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. How are you?
I'm good. You kind of took me off guard there.
No, you're good. What was your favorite episode or character?
Oh my God. Okay.
Game of Thrones.
So my first character, okay, this show came out when I was in middle school. I think I was like 12 years old. Don't ask why I was watching it at 12, but now I'm 19 going on 20 and I'm an adult, so it's kind of crazy how long it's been. But my first favorite character was Daenerys. Then I kind of started reading the books. My favorite character was Jon Snow and Jaime, because I feel like Jaime's come a long way. And I think he has one of the best character arcs in the show, like one of the best redemption arcs, and I think it's just perfect. It's perfect. My favorite episode, I gotta honestly say that it might be, as hard as it was to see Robb, who was also one of my favorite characters, die. Mm-hmm. I think the Red Wedding was one of my favorite episodes, because I know that in Game of Thrones, it was already established in season 1 that anybody could die when Ned Stark just got beheaded at the end. But I feel like the show started to gain like its popularity and how its infamy for being the way it is when Robb died, when the Red Wedding happened, because it just showed that people in this world are crazy and they will do what it takes. So, yeah.
I think the Red Wedding was a lot of people's like moment. Like we were saying earlier, that's when you knew that shit got real.
Yeah, that's definitely like the peak of Game of Thrones, I think. I think that's what kind of launched it into becoming what it was supposed to, which is one of the greatest TV shows of all time. And for it to be fantasy, that's something that we rarely see a fantasy show be considered, something that's the greatest in TV history.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Rhea, for calling and sharing that with us. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
So let me go ahead and bring on, let's see here, Apple Juice 87. I'm going to go ahead and add you guys to this stream. Hey, I see you. How are you guys doing?
Pretty good.
So what was y'all's favorite episode or character in Game of Thrones?
Well, our youngest daughter is actually named Arya Stark, or Arya rather.
Oh, wow.
She acts just like Arya Stark, and we actually started watching watching the series the year she was born, which was 2014. So I think they were already in like season 3 at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to say Bran is trash. I put it in the chat already.
You said Bran?
Yes.
I didn't like the fact that he became king.
Exactly. Yeah. It was like you put us through all this emotional turmoil with him going through all these psychological trials just for him to swoop in after Dany and be like, yeah, y'all know I'm king. Like,
and he did nothing. And you know what? At first, I think for me, what kind of like after a while, Bran just got on my nerves. Like initially, when he was Bran and he was just like that curious kid, he was cool. And then once he became the 3-Eyed Raven, he's like just saying one word replies. The people who say his like hair, he's trash.
The fact that he didn't even show emotions, like when he saw Sansa, when he first saw her, they hugged her, and he just stood there looking at the stars and stuff like. Show some emotion, make her feel comfortable. Like, what are you doing?
Remember how he dissed his homegirl, the one who was pushing him out through the snow?
Yeah, that was.
And then she was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go back home," and he was like, "Okay, bye." Well, now she done pushed us in the snow.
Said what my heart said because I felt for her. I was just like, "You poor girl," just like Princess Shireen. Look, I did my makeup for her
because I like that.
Like she is so underrated. Like she really was the purest one in the series.
Yeah, they did her cold.
And the way they did her, we were both just like.
I was in tears when Shireen died.
Yeah,
I was like shook.
Tyrion is my favorite dude too, and I used to remember the movie Pixels when he was in there and he had Serena Williams and Martha Stewart in the White House.
I haven't seen Pixels.
Oh, okay. Well, there's a part where like when he was promised her and they didn't want it, and then later on when he saved the world, they gave it to him. So he had that look. He had to look like. So, so when he killed Joffrey, I thought he should have had that same look. Like after he poisoned him, he should have backed up like.
I thought it was messed up how like Tyrion got blamed for that, and they knew damn well that he didn't kill Joffrey. Like they knew, you know, everybody knew, but they were still willing to try to kill him anyways. And when he gave that speech while he was on trial, and he was like, "The only thing I'm guilty of is being a dwarf," that speech was so moving.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like ultimately that's why he won, because he still became Hand of the King to Bran. And if you really think about it, Hand of the King is like VP, and like they're the ones that really handle like the tough shit. Like for real, for real. So I think overall Tyrion won. He's the quiet winner, and nobody acknowledges it.
And I'm gonna get his tattoo where it says, "I drink." What is it?
I drink and I know things.
I drink and I know things.
Okay, you gonna get that tatted? Yeah, that was one of my favorite characters, and I also liked his relationship with Varys, because at first Varys was another character that I wasn't really sure of, but near the end I really did like him, because at the end of the day he stood for the people. He's like, I don't care who's the king or queen, I'm about the people, and he stood in that, even though it was like, you know, it ended up with him getting killed, but he stood on that.
He was so messy though. He was so messy. He was so messy.
He was definitely the pillar of tea in Game of Thrones.
Yes.
But yeah, I definitely loved it. But thank you both for calling in. I really appreciate you guys. And thanks for dressing up and doing the grayscale thing. I think that's dope.
It was
a pleasure.
I was supposed to be the big dude that was trying to get in Danny Sugar Walls. What was his name?
Which one?
Arios or whatever. The British actor dude, where she was over there.
And Marine.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for calling in.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
All right. Bye, y'all. Let me go ahead and bring on April. April Jackie. Let me wait till she gets up. Okay, April.
Hey, T, what's going on?
Nothing. How you doing, sis?
I'm doing all right. Just watching you guys, just chilling out.
So what was your favorite episode or character on Game of Thrones?
So my favorite episode, you guys have already said it when we were talking about the battle against the White Walkers in season 8, of course, Arya, when she finally kills the White Walker King, and just that, you know, the reaction when you know, you thought she was not going to make it, because you're like you said, you don't know who's going to, you know, live or die on this show. So I was just like, man, if y'all kill Arya, I might just die myself. So.
Right. Now with the whole Arya thing, how did you feel? Because I felt like there was some parts that was slow and annoying when she was dealing with the many-faced god. Like that whole, like, I think that was part of like season 6. All the stuff that they were putting her through, and she kept getting her butt whooped by that girl.
Yeah.
Like that whole season was just crazy. How did you feel about that?
No, I completely agree. Like, especially when she finally put her training, because she was going through a lot. Because remember, they kept sitting on a whole bunch of assignments like, hey, we just want you to be this assassin. So when it came down to killing that one woman, I think she was like an actress or something, and like a traveling play, she couldn't do it. So you just kind of see like her conscience, because remember, she has that whole kill list. Like, I don't give a damn. I'm killing you. You're on my list.
Right.
So like to have her kill that one girl with the blonde hair at the, you know, the end of it, you know, when the lights are out, and she, you know, she used her training to really get it done when she had no side. I just thought that was cool. And like you said, she said like, hey, my name is Arya Stark and I'm taking my ass home. I'm done with this. So thanks for the training. You made me a killer. Thank you. But I'm going home now.
Exactly. Now, I felt like she really killed her role. And even when I went back to go like try and rewatch certain things, like just her growth from like the first season to the 8th, I just thought her character development was like just really just amazing, because it's like her father always kind of saw something in her. He obviously knew she was not going to be like a princess or a queenly type like Sansa, but she found a whole nother path to get to where she was going in life. And I thought that was really cool.
Exactly. So like somebody already said, I think it was in the chat, she's basically her aunt. And the Ned Stark was really close with his sister, when when everybody believed she was, the R word and killed by the Targaryens. So, he always, you can tell in the show that he always had that soft spot for Arya, because that was his sister, reincarnated. So that makes sense.
No, definitely. Well, thank you so much for calling in, sis. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right. I know we got a lot of people calling in. Let me go ahead and bring on Lauren N. Lauren, if you want to go ahead and pop in here.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, Lauren, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good.
You guys were talking about my favorite character, Arya. When y'all were talking about her, I just really love her throughout the whole series. And talking about her character growth, she, in my opinion, is the best character far as making background moves. Because when she moved in the shadows, when she got stuff done, you didn't know until after the fact. One of my favorite scenes was when Sansa had became Queen of the North, and they had put, I'm trying to remember his name, Littlefinger on trial.
Yeah.
And after that had happened I was just really surprised and everything. And Arya had wind up being able to just completely turn the situation and show his treachery. Because I was just like, girl, Sansa, pay attention. He's gonna stab you in the back. He's doing you wrong. You gotta really, watch yourself. Be careful. And the sister was like, I got you. And that was so amazing.
And I think part of that season that was just like really interesting with Arya is, I think for a moment you didn't know she was going to turn on Sansa. I don't know if you guys got that feeling.
Yes, I was so scared. I was like, don't do, your daddy told you to stay with your sister. I was so fearful for their sister relationship because they ended off on such a bad note right before they got separated. And I was just so scared, because that's like when me and my sister, we're very close and very together. And my sister said she a big fan, and she said, "Hey, T."
Hey, sis. Don't be shy.
Both loyal tea sippers, and we're just like, we will watch you, and then we're watching Game of Thrones now. I'm like getting her into it. I'm rewatching. I'm trying not to spoil it for her. That's why she's not with me, so she won't get spoiled too much. But yes, it's like the sister relationship. I was really scared, but when they like mended it together and just like took over the North together, I said that's real sistership. I just really love that.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, I feel like after a while, by the time that Sansa became Queen of the North, they were both just like, we went through all this terrible just trials and wars. We like, life is short. We need to put this beef aside. We are grown now. Let's just bond and be a family again, because majority of our family is dead. Like, it's just us at this point.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, I thought it was really cool. Their sister bond as well. Was there anything else you want to add, Lauren?
Well, everyone keeps talking about how they didn't like Bran, and I'm just like, everyone gotta like empathize with him. He like I was saying in the comment section, he got turned into a literal history book. And you know how our history books, like, if they're written well, they're impartial, they're not biased. And he had to suffer through that three-eyed raven trend and keep going on and on, watching death on and on. At a certain point, that's like with us now. We see death so much on a news screen, we get sensitized. And we're just like, oh, this is what happened. Oh, okay. And then we don't start feeling those real human emotions unless it hit home. And it didn't hit home for him because he just kept saying over and over again. Because like with Holdorf, he tried to change the past and it didn't work out and wound up it worked out successfully, but it harmed someone in the process.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Lauren, for calling in.
Thank you for having me.
It was good talking to you, sis.
Thank you.
So let me go ahead. Trying to get everybody in because I know everybody has stuff to say. Let's go ahead and bring on Elia. Elia, I'm going to go ahead and add you to this stream here.
Hi, everyone. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Great. Yes. So my favorite episodes, I just have particular scenes. I loved when Dany got to Dragonstone finally touch Westerosi soil. That was powerful for me. I loved also when the Starks reunited because they had such a terrible like story being separated, and when they finally reunited, it was a really good moment. My favorite characters were definitely Arya. I believe she was so strong and she had just embodied this because, you know, when first looking at it, Constanza was a pretty one. You know, she was destined to have this great life, you know, and I loved how they sort of switched the narrative on that. And I also loved Jon, but unfortunately, I felt like his story got dropped. I thought, you know, as him being the chosen one, he was going to be the one to defeat the Night King. And I was kind of disappointed that happened. And I was kind of like, they dropped the Night King story too, because like no one knew what they wanted or what was going on. So I was like, that was disappointing.
Yeah, that's true.
I love the Hound, of course. You know, in the beginning, it was like he was there for survival. But he was there in the background helping like Arya and Sansa through certain situations and certain seasons, and he just turned into this person who who was like sort of misunderstood but had a heart in the end. I love that. I just wish Cersei had a more devastating ending. I was kind of sad that she ended up with someone she loved and whatever that, you know.
Yeah, so. It wasn't that bad.
No, it wasn't.
Her ending was like kind of peaceful.
Yeah.
For
the damage that she did, I was kind of pissed off at that. But yeah,
they almost victimized her. Like you almost kind of felt bad for her.
Yeah.
How did you feel about the Hound when he fought with Brienne Tarth to kind of protect Arya?
I felt like, because at that time we still weren't sure what his intentions were with Arya, right? So I kind of was rooting for Brienne to be like, okay, take her away because we're not sure what the Hound is really up to, because he was under, you know, he was under Cersei and everyone. And he kind of think like he still had allegiances to them. So I was kind of like, okay, Brienne, take her away. But yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was like a really good battle. I mean, they were like both the same height, the same size. Brienne was a badass, and then the Hound, he was like one of the, you know, top killers in the show. So that was just like a crazy battle, and to have Brienne basically wound him, and then to have Arya at the end of it, because I thought, well, maybe she would kill him, but she was like, why kill him? I'm just going to leave him here to suffer, and then she just walked off. So I thought that was really interesting how they played that.
Right. And I just wish that, because I felt like even Arya went through all this extensive training and nothing happened. She didn't use any face after she returned. I thought she was going to do something. There was a lot of stories about, you know, her using Jaime to get back to Cersei. You know, it was a lot of like things that you're like, okay, those fan stories actually made more sense than what happened. So it was like, you know.
I did notice one thing in the final season that was kind of cool, that kind of resulted back to her training, was when her and Jon were first reunited. You know, Jon, he's pretty well versed in battle and stuff, but how when him and Arya were reunited, he was like, how did you sneak up on me like that and I didn't hear you? And then she just said, well, how are you still alive, blah, blah, blah. But you notice when it was time for her to kill the Night King, that was her advantage. She snuck up on him and he didn't know.
Right. I love how they did the full circle too, because remember, Jon, before he left for the Night's Watch, he also gave Arya a needle, and so I loved how they came back full circle. Yeah,
that's when I started liking Jon.
Yeah,
because I think he looked out for her even more than Robb Stark did. I think her and Jon Snow were way closer than even her and Robb.
Right.
Yeah. Arya and Jon were real cool.
Yeah.
Because Sansa would call him her half brother, and Arya's like, "That's not our half brother. That's our brother."
Right.
Yeah.
And then it was nice to see Sansa like kind of turn it around and be like, you know, more open and even apologize for how shitty she treated Jon.
Right.
And I think she kind of just went off of the mother, because a mother like Caitlyn, I mean, while I did feel bad for her getting killed at the Red Wedding, I did not like how she treated Jon. I thought she was trash for that. She didn't even want him talking to, if you guys noticed, when Bran first had his accident, she didn't even want Jon talking to Bran. And it's like, you can't give his brother, you know what I'm saying, like goodbye and farewell and, you know, well wishes. Like, what the hell's wrong with her?
Yeah, I don't like her.
Oh, sorry. Littlefinger was like, she wasn't too fond of you. And that's when Jon choked him, put him up against the wall.
I was conflicted because I kind of understood her position, but I was like, okay, come on, cut him some slack. And then when you found out the story was that she hated him for no reason, because at the end he wasn't even Ned Stark's kid. So yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, she's somewhere looking stupid.
Yeah, I honestly was happy when the Red Wedding happened and she died. Like,
I was happy.
I was happy because I don't like her. Because it's like, to me, I felt like the only kid she really truly cared about was Bran, and all the other kids she didn't like really cared much about.
Rob.
Oh, okay, a little bit about Rob, but even then, she still cared more about Bran than anything else.
She definitely had her favorites and her kids.
Yeah.
Well, she did let Jaime go free because she wanted Sansa and Arya back. So I mean,
but I felt like that was more of like, okay, she needs them so that she can marry them off. And to marry them off and have more powerful allies and stuff like that.
Okay, got you. I guess Catelyn Stark was a POV character in the books, so you actually kind of got to get her point of view on things. Right. And obviously in the books, she loved her kids. Now the show, the way that it was portrayed was a little different.
Somebody said they didn't give a damn about Recon. They didn't have like
exactly.
Yeah.
Last time we saw Recon, he was running during the Battle of the Bastards and got shot. I'm like, really?
Yeah, and then Rickon was cutting the hell up around the beginning. That's why Shaggy Dog was so wild and fucking people up. His direwolf was the worst because all this shit was going on and Rickon was too young to understand. And that's why Rob was like, Mom, he needs you. Like, do something. Shit.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what got me so mad. It's like, come on now.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, let me go ahead and bring on some other people. So, Elia, thank you so much for calling in. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Let me go ahead and bring on, let me see here. Diosa. I think they're not in here. Oh, I don't know. I think their camera went out or something like that. Let me bring in somebody else. Yami.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm so good. Oh my gosh. Hi, everyone. Hi, T. I love you. I love Game of Thrones.
Thank you for calling in, sis.
Of course. Thank you for having me. So I'm going to start on a high or a low and end on a high because I don't want y'all to hate me. But so season 8, hated season 8. And it's more so because the development, like throughout the whole story, both in the books and the show, the characters have a development. And that's one of the reasons why I grew to love Jaime, because he was so trash in the beginning, but he had amazing arc. But then my overall 2 favorite characters are Arya and Dany. And they did Dany so wrong in season 8. The writers. They like literally, I don't know if you saw it in the chat, but I was talking about it doesn't make any sense at all for Dany to literally like free slaves, avenge children by like putting them on a crucifix. And she literally like locked up her own dragons, who she calls her babies, to keep other human beings safe. And then she like, turn around and literally kill thousands of innocent people and children. Like, it makes no sense at all.
It didn't add up.
And it's because
now another thing that kind of annoyed me with Danny, I don't know if you kind of peeped this, Jamie. After a while, I think like by season, I want to say maybe season 6-ish, she kind of had like this whole great white hope savior.
Right.
That annoyed me after a while because it was like, oh, I'm trying to free the slaves, and it's about the slaves, and it's just like, man, just calm the fuck down. Like you're coming through the Marine and you're changing their whole, their whole system around, and we get that. But after a while, for her to, like you said, she fought so hard to free people and to be equal and,
a liberator.
Good. Yeah, she wanted to be like this huge liberator. That's why at first it was like, okay, cool. She's burning down the Red Inn. Cool. She's burning down, certain symbolisms that have to do with the monarchy at King's Landing. But then when she came to like burning women and men and children that were innocent who had nothing to do with this war, it's almost like, well, damn, who really was Danny?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you know what? Who was Danny? It was the writers who were trying to get another bag for the Star Wars show.
That's what I kept hearing too. That's why they had rushed it. But I will say, I'd read George R.R. Martin was I think something similar is going to happen in the books. I really do. I don't know if it's going to be after all this backlash, if he's going to end it the same way. But I think maybe had they put in more time into Danny's like demise, I guess, then it would make more sense. But I think something similar is going to happen in the books. I think Danny is going to turn into the Mad Queen.
Right, because my friends and I were talking about this. Like, we could see Danny dying at the end. That's not the problem. It's the way they did it. They painted themselves into a corner, and they made her seem like this crazy evil person. And like, that's not who Danny is. But I will say one of my most favorite parts of the show was when Theon redeemed himself after and saved Sansa. That was like beautiful to me. I like ended up really liking Theon at the end, and when he saved Bran too, ultimately.
Yeah, he really did redeem himself because, and I think just to play the character Theon had to have taken so much work because in the first 2 seasons he was very arrogant and full of himself, and he was that dude, like all around, even sexually. He was always at the brothels and stuff like that. And then to go from that to being a shell of himself, it was so hard to watch, because he was such a proud person. So to watch him like turn and be a shell of himself because of all the psychological abuse that Ramsay put on him was crazy. And even when he left his sister, when he didn't fight for his sister. But yeah, he really did redeem himself. It's like he finally found that old Theon Greyjoy and he made himself, where by the time he died in season 8, you just respected him so much.
Exactly. So I definitely grew to like Theon. But the show, it also just left you with so many questions with like the children of the forest and like spirals and what all that stuff meant. And then if they created the Night King in the series, don't you think they would know how to like ultimately destroy him? Like that made no sense to me at all. And it was also, but it was interesting just overall as a story, like the Night King and that being a part of the show, because to me, I interpreted the children of the forest as like being the earth itself or representation of the earth. The Night King being like essentially man's karma for how we are treating the earth currently when we think of like climate change and pollution. So I'm like, wait. Because ultimately, of the forest, they created they created the Night King because the man or humans, like the first men, were harming the children of the forest and cutting down those trees that they pray to. That are
the gods would.
Right. Yeah. So I really thought that was interesting, but hopefully, I don't know, with the way they finished the book, because I don't think he's done with all of the books yet. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, he's not.
Right. So hopefully it'll get addressed more. But I always thought that was a really interesting storyline too.
Yeah, I wanted to know more about them because even like their characters, they kind of came out of nowhere, like that was for. And it seemed like they definitely have a story, like a back story to tell. Because like you said, they were there before humans even walked the earth.
Right.
So that was like a really dope analysis where you just said that maybe that was why they created the Night King as punishment for like, humans not appreciating, the earth and the things that, it does for us. So that makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. Well, I don't want to take up too much time. Thank you guys.
All right. Thank you so much for calling in, sis. I appreciate it.
All right. Y'all have a good night.
You too. Let me go ahead and bring on Camille. Camille, go ahead and come on in. Let me unmute your microphone. Hi, how are you?
Really good. Hi, T.
Hi.
You look really beautiful.
Thank you, sis. Appreciate
and I like
it.
oh well, I just wore my queen shirt because I didn't even know that we were going to be a part of the party and conversation. But you know,
I love
really
it.
love Game of Thrones, and when you started talking about it in your lives, I was like, yes, because just to get your perspective, because I love, especially the first 6 seasons, some last 2 do feel very rushed, and how they were moving from like land to land within the same episode. I'm like, that's not really consistent.
I
with
was
how
thinking the
show
same
had
thing
gone.
too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I like your costume. Forgot about the lady in the red lady. But I do agree.
Oh, Melisandre.
I do agree that that her taking the necklace off is a no-go. Anyways, I just wanted to, just given this wonderful forum, just mention a few things like, I wrote it down. The little girl, Mormont, how she was just like a little baby boss, when the other commentator was talking about how all the girls were like running things. Remember that little girl?
The one who had ended up putting the dagger through the giant's eye?
Right.
Okay, yeah. Her.
Oh
She
my
was
gosh.
dope. Yeah.
To be so little, she was a badass. They definitely had a really good representation of women. And I did mention in Instagram this afternoon that Arya is, my favorite. I was riding for Dany the whole time, but I could see they were starting to make her unravel. So I switched back up to the Stark side.
Yeah, the little girl's name, they're writing in the chat.
It was Lyanna.
Laura?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was named after Lyanna Stark.
Okay.
She was.
Yeah,
Lyanna
she was
Mormont.
dope.
Mm-hmm.
She was dope. She definitely ran things.
She took a whole giant out. Yeah, she sure did.
Yeah.
She was not. Yeah, she represented her power that was given.
Yeah.
And also too, I like Ser Jorah. Even though and then when you like kind of watch it back, and then you see where he went and kind of betrayed Dany, and then she found out like way later that whole thing. But he was such a good character and just fought with like his whole being for her. That's what I mean. And I definitely agree with the last caller, Jaime or whatever her name was. She had a very in-depth perspective of the show, but the way they just did Dany was just very hurtful, because I feel like I kind of supported her, watched her rise, and just because of a few, she went through a lot, but just because of whatever was going on with her and Jon and blah blah blah, I don't think you would just get on a dragon and just do that. But
it seemed like it was the Jon thing that broke her the most, is finding out that he was the true heir. That's when she started snapping.
That was a 1-2 punch there.
Yeah, she used to being turned, getting curbed.
Yeah, I definitely liked her relationship with Ser Jorah, and then it's like once they fell off, it's almost like, dang, just forgive him, okay? But I get it.
Yeah.
He was with her for like almost 20 years, and then to find out that, he was a spy initially, but, you could clearly tell that over the years he changed, and he was like Team Dany all the way.
Oh, yeah, he loved her.
Mm-hmm. Which I thought was like really cool. Were there any other parts that you liked in there?
Well, yeah. I was, of course, chiming in while you guys were talking, but I also like the guy from Dorne, the one that got killed by the monster or whatever. That part was definitely a scream at the TV moment, because you just have so much like love for him, and because he was fighting for Lord Tyrion, who was awesome. He definitely is a favorite character,
Right.
There's a few favorites, but that was a scream. I was just loving when you started with kind of chime in the beginning of your life. Oh, sorry, my 1-year-old. He likes to chime in the background.
Oh God.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's good to like actually get to talk about this stuff, about how much I just did not like the way they did the last couple seasons. And I do wonder how George R.R. Martin feels about that as well.
Me too. That's a good question.
And see, that's why I still wanted to do, like, even though I'm like years late, but I watched it when I could. I got up to date, and the best part is that there's a whole new chapter starting, so I'm right on time.
Yeah.
You know, so I can't wait until like the new chapters come, because then we can have more discussions like this. Just because I think the show, like the other young lady was saying, like there's so much of the show that resonates, even though it takes place in like, you know, AD, whatever, you know, thousands of years ago, we can still relate so many things that happened way back then, even in this fictional story, to what's going on in our real world today. And I think that's the part that's really cool.
Ooh, I want a couple more things. Okay, we didn't talk about how Jamie and Lady Brienne hooked up, and you kind of really see him come almost full circle, but then he went back to his sister. And you're like, you know, that whole part is just.
When she started crying, was I the only one shook? Because like the whole time, like Brienne never really showed emotion. Like even when Patrick was trying to be like nice to her, like, you know, just teach me your ways. I want to be a big, you know, fighter. And it's like she was more annoyed than anything. And so to see her lose her virginity to Jamie, and then you're thinking, okay, this is perfect, because now we all like Jamie. You know, now Jamie's the homeboy. Yeah. So we're like, we want them to get married, have some big old fighter babies together. Yeah. And then when Jamie hops on his horse and goes back to that crazy queen, I said, what the hell is this? I wasn't expecting
I knew Jamie was going to do that.
Yeah, he couldn't.
He was in love with his sister.
That was so messy.
Yeah.
But thank you for the opportunity, T, and please let me back on Discord. I love you so much.
I love you too. Thank you so much, sis. Thanks for calling in. All right, let me go ahead. Let's try Asia again. I hope her microphone is fixed. Come on down, Asia.
Did I fix it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm really enjoying this. This is just nice to and I'm just like cracking up and reading all the comments in the chat as well. Like this has just been really awesome. So what was your favorite scene or character in Game of Thrones?
So one thing that I wanted to talk about was, did y'all peep kind of the relationship between Arya and Lord Tywin? How
I love that relationship.
I loved that. That was so dope. Like low key, like Tywin was really fucking with Arya. Like, of course, he didn't know who she was, but you could just tell like he really liked her, and she liked him too. Like she knew who he was, obviously, but you know, they kind of had that relationship. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah,
that was really. I forget what season that was. What was
I think like season 4 or something.
I think it was
season 2.
Was
it 2? I don't remember.
Because it was before the Red Wedding, because he was
he
asked Arya, because he was like, well, what do you hear about, you know, Robb Stark?
Yeah.
Right.
She said he can die, anyone can die.
What was that thing that she said? He was saying something to her, and she was like, have you met many? Like she said something kind of smart. And he was like, careful, girl.
He was like, watch your tongue,
yeah, he
girl.
was like, watch it.
And I think that scene with him and Arya, it humanized Tywin.
Yes.
Because we're so used to seeing him in this leadership role and being so stoic and stern. And I think in that scene, it made him almost like a grandfather, because I think he was almost more sympathetic and kind to her than even his grandchildren. Like he knew his grandchildren were all screwed up in the head, you know, but I really liked his dynamic. So yeah, that was really good. Yeah. And then did you hold your breath when Littlefinger came in the room? I was like, that was crazy.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I really liked that that little, and it was so small, but I mean, if you pay attention, you know, it was interesting. I feel like it was interesting.
I like that part a lot too.
Yeah.
Now let me ask you, how do you feel about Arya and Gendry when they eventually hooked up, like to watch their progression?
So it's crazy because when we see Arya for the first time, she's so young. Like in season 1, she's a little kid.
Right.
So to watch her through the years and then see that, like them kind of hook up, it was cringe for me. I liked it because I knew she kind of always kind of maybe had a thing for him, but to see
I always knew.
Yeah.
From just before when they parted ways, and Arya was like, no, don't, like basically was like, no, don't leave me, take me with you or come with me. I knew they would get together. but to see them actually get together, it was like, Arya,
yeah,
you're still to us it's like you're still a child, but no, she's not. She's actually she's grown over the years, but it's just like we still see that little girl.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of hard to watch that.
Plus Gentry was hot. I'm sorry, he was hot.
He was
I was mad. I
Yeah.
rather with Gentry than the damn Hound.
Yeah, he's like a young Christian Bale. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, there was a meme that was going around that was like the Baratheon guy never gets the Stark girl because Robert Baratheon was obsessed with Lyanna and she didn't want him. Arya didn't want Gentry. Well, she did want him, but she just didn't want to marry him. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, Gentry was cute. He wasn't no Jon Snow, but he
No,
was
not at all. But
No, he wasn't a Jon Snow. But he was cute.
I love me some Jon Snow.
Yeah, Jon Snow, okay.
That's right.
Was there any other characters or any other look, somebody wrote oysters, clam, and cockles.
Yes.
The chat is smiling right now. That was funny. You're supposed to poison the thin man.
Yes.
Oysters, cockles.
Them braids she had were so cute too.
That went towards the front. I'm like,
Yeah, she was so cute.
Yeah, I liked it, that part. Like that's probably like one of like the most redeeming parts because that whole season with the many-faced gods and he kept talking to her in riddles. Like that was so annoying.
Yeah, that was frustrating.
Yeah. Oh my
This
goodness.
girl is not ready. Like, damn, when was she gonna be ready? Because we ready to move on.
Yeah, it's like, what else she gotta do? She did all this for you. What else?
Right.
And remember when he was what was his name? Jack and Hagar, the dude, the many-faced god dude. What was he saying to her? They were doing some kind of game where it's like she talks about herself, but not really talking about herself. And he was asking her questions, and the Hound came up, and he was like, "What about the Hound?" And she was like, "I don't like him. Like, I hate him." And he was smacking her every time she would lie. I thought that was interesting because she pretty much told him like, "Yeah, I hate the Hound." He smacked her like, "You're lying." She was like, "What? That wasn't a lie." So I feel like, she let on that she hated him, but really she didn't. Like she actually liked him. So
I think
that was
she wanted to continue to hate him until she got to know him a little better. And
Yeah.
then felt like the human. I don't know if it was just me or not, but I always, because Sansa, she had like love. She was with people, but it was always like these monsters. But part of me wanted to see Sansa and the Hound end up together.
Did you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, I know they're like, what's the word? Aesthetically, probably aren't the most fitting, but you could tell the Hound always had like a.
He did care about her.
Yeah, and remember at the very end, whenever like she asked him a question, I think she was like, "What's that?" And he was like, "None of your fucking business." And like she just kind of looked at him, and he was like, "I'm sorry." Like I don't know, he didn't get too snippy with Sansa. There was like a level of respect there for her.
Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely had a little soft spot for her. I also wanted to kind of bring up King Joffrey's wedding when he married Queen Marjorie. I started binge watching the seasons again, and that episode, I wonder if it's just me, but when Joffrey was doing all that he was doing at that wedding, like when they had the little dwarfs come out and like do that play, and all the stuff that he was saying to Tyrion, and like, "Oh, pour me my wine," and like he poured the wine on Tyrion's head, like all the stuff that he was doing. Like, did y'all feel like secondhand embarrassment? Because I did, not for Tyrion, but for Joffrey. Like he was so childish.
Yeah.
It was
everybody
wasn't acting
funny,
like a
and you're
king.
waiting for somebody more mature to just like, because he's still a child at the end of the day,
Yeah.
and you're waiting for his mother, his other uncle, his grandfather to like check him and say this is enough, and everybody just sat there watching and taking time.
Because everybody had issues with Tyrion.
Yeah, they just sat there and let him do that. And you can tell everybody was mad uncomfortable. Like everyone was sitting there like, "Oh my God."
Yeah, like poor Santa. She was just like, "Let's go." And in the books, the little person that was riding the dog or the horse or something.
Yeah.
the pig. Okay, so he ends up meeting her, and they end up Tyrion while he's, with Dany or on the run. I don't think in the books he hadn't met Dany yet. But anyways, he ends up hooking up with her. And that's like his girlfriend.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Asa, thank you so much for calling in, sis. I appreciate it.
Yes, no problem.
We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
So let me go ahead and bring on, let's see here. Nicole. Let me go ahead and add her to the stream. Okay, Nicole.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? How's everybody?
We're doing good. We're doing good.
Good.
So I am a huge, super big fan of Game of Thrones. I have read the books as well. And one of the things, I have a whole list. So I could not.
Hello?
Felt like she was so.
Oh, your phone is breaking up.
Yeah, it's breaking up.
It's like it's going in and out. I think her phone went out. Okay, we'll come back to her. Let me go ahead and bring on Sarah A. Hey, Sarah. Oh, there you go.
Oh, I made it.
Hi, how are you?
Hi.
I'm great. How are you? Thank you for letting me come on.
Definitely, definitely. So what was your favorite character episode in Game of Thrones?
My favorite character is, I have three: Cersei, Arya, and Sansa.
Okay.
I feel like Cersei was like the best villain.
Yeah.
But she doesn't get the credit she deserves for being so smart. Like she just was a
with
genius.
Cersei around the beginning. Cersei was one of my favorite characters around the beginning.
Yeah. She did what she had to do to protect her family, to protect her kids.
Yeah.
But she's the mastermind pulling all these strings behind the scenes, like her and her dad together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love Arya. I love how she rides for her family. If that happened to me, I'm riding on everybody.
Right. Right.
You know, the way she rode for her siblings.
The way
and
she
the
took
way
out
that
the phrase, man, she took out the whole house.
The whole house. They deserved it. They were
they
trash.
showed it. Fuck the phrase. They were trash. Nobody respected them.
Trash.
Fuck
and I love Sansa because, you know, she doesn't get a fair shake. You see her grow so strong over the series. You see her become like a real woman, and she makes these survival moves. You know what I mean? Like she chooses to stay quiet. She chooses to do what she has to do. She's surrounded by these lunatics, like everywhere you turn. When her aunt got pushed down that hole by Littlefinger, yes, that's when I realized, I was like, okay, she's gonna make it to the end.
Now, one thing that made me, it was something about Liza that made me very uncomfortable. Not just the fact that she was feeding her 10-year-old from her teeth. Okay, that was you know, and he was like burping, and you know, it's like, dude, he's 10. Get him a cup and tell him to go sit down somewhere. But when Sansa first came, I kind of felt like there was going to be like an underlying jealousy, like the older woman feeling some, because she was so in love with Littlefinger. And
Littlefinger was always in love with Catelyn.
Yeah, like I knew it was going to be some type of friction. And when she watched Littlefinger kiss Sansa, it's like that just, you know, pushed her over the edge. You know, and then she almost killed Sansa, but then Littlefinger, you know, saves her. But yeah, I thought that part with Lady Liza was just crazy. And when she finally fell down that moon door, I was here for it. That woman's bad. She's crazy.
And you know, the crazy thing though, if you really think about it, she's the one who started all these fucking wars, because she was the one who poisoned Jon Arryn.
Right.
Which Littlefinger talked her into doing it, but she poisoned Jon Arryn, which in turn caused the frictions between the Starks and the Lannisters. And Ned got beheaded because he went down there because Jon Arryn, the hand died like that. She started all that shit. Well, actually it was Littlefinger, but I mean, she was the one who did it, you know.
It's interesting how Littlefinger, from what I've been told about the books, he's never a first person narrative in the books. but he's really behind a lot of these treacherous, murderous motives. You know what I mean?
Right.
I enjoyed him as a character. I
did
really
too.
did.
He was creepy.
Yeah.
His voice was kind of creepy, but I really enjoyed him because he was, when you think about it, he was a hustler. He hustled his way from the bottom all the way up to the master of coin over the years, and that's not easy to do. And he literally worked with so many different houses. So he had stuff on everybody, and I think that was the reason why he was in the brothels, so he could use the girls to listen to secrets and get these men in compromising positions, because he had just as many eyes around just all of these different areas as Varys did. Yeah. He was like Varys in a more cunning form.
Well, when he was younger, he was in love. Him and Catelyn and Liza, would all play together and stuff because he lived near them. But he was from a smaller house, and he was in love with Catelyn, and they always told him, "No, you ain't ever gonna be shit." And like I said, he came kind of like Bronn. He came from the mud. Like he hustled his way up to his place of power. So, I mean, you got to give him that, even though he was a shit starter.
I started watching because you started watching, T, and you had said something about how interesting it was, because I put it off for a long time. I didn't want to watch it. And I binge watched the whole 8 seasons in like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And I just got pulled in. It's so good. I was really sad to see it end. And the character development was wonderful. The acting was amazing. Yeah. The storylines, the writing. It was a great show. I was sad to see, but I am glad to hear that there's going to be some spinoffs. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, and I think that's like the perfect time, because I couldn't imagine, like I was telling Emily, like, as far as people who are like fans of the show from the beginning, I couldn't imagine how hard that was to wait every year for like the new season. See, me and you were able to kind of binge watch. So we didn't have to go through the whole anticipation of, oh my God, I got to wait another year, for the next season.
Wait a week for an episode.
Yeah, where we just were like, okay, season 2, season 3.
It also came with, that it sucked, but also you had time to digest everything and think about it and ponder on it. Yeah. And y'all had all this just coming at you at once with like no break.
Yeah.
So, I guess it could either which way. Yeah.
That
it's a
first
lot.
episode, season 1, I was like, what?
It was crazy just from the time it started. And then you get attached, like I said, to these characters. Then you see the different ones.
Did I finish?
So yeah, we didn't get a chance to like digest it, like how the regular fans would have had like a whole year to digest and talk about it. We're going on to the next season and the next season. So yeah, it was definitely a crazy ride.
I cried watching Sansa, her, I guess, throne men or whatever it's called, when they declared her Queen of the North. When I saw that, I got so emotional, I started tearing up.
Yeah.
I don't even know her. This ain't even real, but it made me cry.
Yeah.
She's definitely come a long way as far as character developments. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for calling in. I really appreciate it. I think her screen froze.
Yeah, she's frozen.
So let me go ahead and bring on Naisha.
Hi.
Hey, Naisha. I know it's getting out late. We've been out here for almost 3 hours. This has been just a wonderful discussion. I'm loving it. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you? Love the outfit. I would have cosplay too, but I had to work, so I didn't have time to throw anything together.
Girl, I went through the same thing.
So what was your favorite episode or character?
Oh gosh, that's so many episodes to pick from. Well, everyone already kind of touched on a lot of my favorite episodes, but I would probably say one of my favorite ones would be when Sam goes home to his family and kind of stands up for himself with Billy.
That was a good one.
Yeah,
that was a really good one.
And then he stole the sword.
Yeah, he stole the sword. Yeah. Oh gosh, favorite character. Of course, Arya's a favorite, and Tyrion's a favorite. trying to think, is there a favorite character that no one has already mentioned that I liked?
What about Thurman, the wildling with the red hair?
Tormund, I
loved him.
Yeah.
love
They're
the
like a little mini
wildlings, just in
characters.
general.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
feel
the
like I
wildlings.
ended up liking a lot of the wildlings.
I feel like if I lived in that generation, I'd be a wildling.
Yeah.
That's where I'd be.
Because they don't really want to be ruled by anybody, which is, understandable. And they kind of did their own thing. Were you freaked out at all by the Fiends, the ones that were eating people? I thought they were like such creepy characters.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they like all the scars on their foreheads and stuff. I thought they were like super creepy. And then there was like another, who was like another just off-brand character. We talked about Osha. She was the other wildling that was with Recon. I liked her. She grew on me.
I liked it, John's his relationship with his I can't remember her name, but the wildling lady. I thought that was cute.
You talking about
Ygritte?
Yeah. It was
I liked
cute.
it.
And
They're
I
together in real life. They just had a baby.
They are?
Yeah, they just had a baby.
I thought that was so cute. I was like, oh, that's actually his wife.
Oh my gosh.
That's so
Yeah, they're
cute.
actually married. Somebody in the chat says
Well, that
they
worked
love
out for
the
them.
Giants. I did too.
Yeah, I like that
Yeah.
giant. The one
And
that
Bron.
the one
Other
that
people talking
went
about they
hard
like
for John.
Bron. I thought Bron's character was really good. And his
Yeah.
character development was like really good. He was another one too that was a hustler.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
He came from the
And then
mud
he
too.
worked his way all the way up. So I thought his character, I liked him a lot.
Oh,
Yeah.
what's his name? The guy that ended up being the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch after John, that died at the Battle of Winterfell. What
I
was his
can't
name?
say his name. I know who you're I see his face.
I liked him too, though, because he rode hard for John,
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and the Wildlings did too.
He did. So yeah, there was quite a few people, who like really a lot of like, I guess you want to call them micro characters that really put the show in together.
That was one of the things I loved about season 8, though, was that you got to see all of these characters kind of come together, like seeing like Jamie and Tyrion's reaction to Tormund, And I thought it was so cute. Tormund's crush on Brienne, that was so funny.
Right.
Comedic relief, but just seeing them all come together the night before the battle and how they all interacted together. Like I've said, I really like Davos. I thought he was cool. He was so like just chill and diplomatic, but he didn't fuck with Melisandre.
Somebody said his name was Ed. So Ed was the guy from the next watch.
Ed.
And then they talked about Pip. Also, Benjen. Even though he was small, Uncle Benjen, he kind of saved the day twice. And he sacrificed himself. Yeah. So I did like him as well.
Yeah, he saved himself for John. He sacrificed himself and for Bran.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, this has been just like a wonderful discussion. So I wanted to, so thank you so much, Naisha, for calling in. I really appreciate it. So before we leave, I wanted to kind of get in on the part where the characters and how like a lot of times in these roles, I talked about it the other day on my live stream, how a lot of these roles for people, they really get immersed in this. And one thing just kind of finding out more about the real people behind the characters, I found out that a lot of them went through a lot, had to get counseling, because like I said before, when you're taking on an acting role, you're taking on the persona of somebody that's not you. Regardless if it's a good character or a bad character, that's not your essence or being. You're literally emptying yourself out as a vessel, and you're allowing this character to come into you. And Emily was telling me, and she had sent me a video of where Kit Harington, who plays Jon Snow, where on the last day of filming, like he broke down crying, and he really went through a lot. So if you want to kind of talk about how he had to go and get counseling, because this is somebody who started this character, like I believe in his early 20s, and this show lasted about 10 years. So he's been playing Jon Snow for years, and Jon Snow is not the most bubbly character. Like, let's keep it real. He's very mild, he's very melancholy. He's been through a lot. You know, you can tell he just has a lot of worry and a lot of things going on in his brain.
Yeah, he's very emo.
Yeah, very.
Yeah.
So he went through a lot playing this character, and I think that's part of the reason why he doesn't really do social media. And it got so real for him that, like we just said, he ended up marrying Ygritte, who was the Wildling girl in season 3 that he lost his virginity to. They got married shortly after that, and they just had their baby like a week or two ago. You know, so yeah, if you want to touch on that part with Jon Snow.
Well, one thing about Kit Harington, I don't know if a lot of people know or not, but he actually, I'm trying to get my camera. So, Kit Harington comes from like royal blood over in Europe. I can't remember the exact lineage, but he's not just like your average everyday guy. Like he grew up very privileged and is very prestigious over there. So, you know, he's very educated. But like you had said, he's a very sensitive soul. And there had been many interviews where, you know, he would talk about interactions with fans, and they're like, "Oh, are you Jon Snow?" And he would kind of get sad, especially after the show ended, because he's kind of like, "Well, not anymore." But then even before, he'd be like, "Well, yeah, kind of." Like he just said it. They were kind of like the same person at that point. Like he was Jon Snow. Jon Snow was him, and especially filming for so long and as in depth and detailed of a character as he is, because he kind of became the star of the show. And also think of like all the pain he went through, all the women that he loved, he had to kill. He had to kill Dany. He had to kill you. Well, he didn't kill Ygritte, but
he had to leave her.
Yeah, he had to leave her, and then, you know, hold her in her arms as she was dying. He had to make so many tough decisions as a leader. And you notice in the show, when he was having a conversation with another guy that I liked was Dondarrion, from the Brotherhood.
Yeah.
Not the drunk, but the other one with the eye patch. And he told him, you know, well, what the Lord of the Light didn't tell me what he wanted with me. And he said that because, you know, he had been brought back a lot too, but he's like, you and I are not going to find much happiness in life. We're here to protect people. Like Jon was there. He was, you know, protector of the realm. And I guess maybe just interpreting all of that whenever the show ended too. One, he said he felt a lot of guilt just because he scored this role of a lifetime and he felt very undeserving. But then whenever the show ended, he broke down crying when they wrapped his final scene, because he's like, I know I'll never do anything as great as this. And then what was the other one? The table read, when he found out that he was going to kill Dany. He broke down crying. Like, he's very emotional, but it took a big toll on him. A lot of things through that show, because he was so invested in that character.
Yeah, I can see that, you know, in all of them. And what I was thinking too, like, you know, he ended up dealing with a lot. He had a lot of demons that he had to battle from being on Game of Thrones, like alcoholism and things like that. And like people are saying, you know, especially if you're an empath, you can definitely absorb a lot more in. But when you think about roles like Joffrey, I think the only redeeming quality of Joffrey was when I was watching the director's cut. And they're saying the young man that played him is probably one of the most sweetest young men. That, you know, he was hardworking, you know, always there, you know, knew his lines, worked hard. And so when he got killed off, that was very hard for the cast, because it's like these are people that you've been around with, you know, been around for months at a time, every day, you know, for months, for like the past 4 or 5 years. So it was like really hard when he, you know, got killed, not so much because of his character, but him as a person. So I guess it makes you really think, like, you know, did these actors end up seeking counseling or figuring out ways to come out of these characters? Because Joffrey was really hated in real life. I mean, there are people who don't know how to separate the character from the real person.
That's just insane. Like, I get the actor.
That is.
I get the actor having trouble, you know, but like me as just a consumer, if I ever ran into the actor, I don't know if they'd be doing around here, but we'll just say, and I seen him, I'm like, fuck you, you piece of shit. Like, obviously I know that's a character he's playing, and he did a damn good job. being. They said, I read that he had issues getting roles now.
Well, they said he quit acting. The people in the chat are talking about it. He quit acting after that because it was too much, and people don't know how to separate the character, and they think he's evil and, you know, a brat. And it's like, no, he just played the hell out of the character. And I think that's another thing I really enjoyed about the show is that literally everybody in the show could act. I can't really name one bad actor in the show. You know, from Arya to Sansa to Tywin to Tyrion to Cersei, like they really embodied these roles and they brought these characters to life. And even like, you know, Ramsay Bolton, aka Ramsay Snow, that was such a sadistic character that I really hope he exercised those damn demons out of him.
I'll Google him after. I'll have to Google him.
It's insane. I seen him on Instagram and it was kind of creepy looking at him because it's like all I see.
He's kind of cute.
Yeah, you know, but it's like, I really hope he got some counseling for that because that was such a dark role for him to play. And a lot of people had these whole I hate Ramsay fan clubs.
His
and
girlfriend,
attack him.
His girlfriend was the one I couldn't stand. That
bitch. Yeah. Yeah,
when Theon threw her over and she was like, Theon, no. I was like, throw that bitch over. I was so happy.
I was here for that. Yeah. But yeah, there was definitely like a lot to the characters. And I know even the lady, what is that? Is that Amelia that plays
Amelia Clark? Yes. She was going
she went through a lot too playing that role.
Yeah. She actually was dealing with a chronic illness season 1 and 2 to where like she was having seizures. She had a lot of issues with her brain where she was like in the hospital. I think it's called Shari. But she's a big advocate. She has a lot of like charities and stuff like that to help people that have brain issues. But she literally was having problems with her brain, and she was still like toughing it out, you know, coming through and delivering like these amazing scenes and stuff like that. But yeah, she was her health was at a really bad decline to where she was not only worried, like, oh my God, am I going to die? But like, am I going to blow this opportunity? But she thugged it out and she did really good. I love Amelia Clark. She's one of my favorite actresses.
Yeah, she definitely played that role. You know, like I said, season 8 made me side-eye her, but you know, she definitely bought her all. You know, and a lot of it too is that they had no idea which way the story was going to go until they were at the table reads.
Right, exactly.
Watching that table read when she was crying, Kit Harington was crying after he found out he was going to have to kill her. So a lot of this stuff was a shock to them, just like it was to us, the viewers watching the show, which I thought was really interesting. You know, that they kind of all found out what was going to happen to each character. Because I know you were even saying that even with Sansa, after Theon died and they yelled cut, she couldn't stop crying.
Yeah, like she couldn't quit crying. Like she couldn't cut it off. Like she couldn't stop the emotion. And another thing with Amelia Clark is so funny, like because I follow her on social media and just watch her interviews and stuff like that. And she really is just a really like quirky, goofy girl. So it's so funny to see how her real personality is. I guess, you know, just what you see in her interviews to like how she played the shit out of this character, because none of that, you know, the goofiness and all that seems to be represented through Dany. You know, like she doesn't have this quirky sense of humor. Dany doesn't really seem to have much of a sense of humor.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting seeing them like on their social medias. Like I ran across the girl who plays the woman, that plays Missandre and Grey Worm, their social media, and he's like I don't know, he does like rock and roll music, and you know he like plays music. He's like in a band.
Where they'd be dancing off set, and they're doing what was that one challenge? At night, I think of you. You know what I'm talking about? Him and Missandei. I think him and Missandei and Dany were all real. You know, they got real cool in real life. And I know what's his name, the guy who plays Aquaman. What's his name?
I forgot his name.
They said it was he was the one who brought the damn Starbucks cup, you know, the whole Starbucks gate.
That was in one of the scenes.
Yeah, they said it was his. But he did show up for the, you know, some of the filming or whatever. But you know, he would have pictures of him and his wife and Danny, and he'd be like, "My queens." And I know if I was his wife, I'd
Oh,
be like,
you're
"Bitch,
talking about Jason Momoa.
Jason,
Okay.
yeah.
like, hold up,
I didn't
your
know. I forget
queens."
he was Aquaman. Yeah, Jason. That's who
Yeah,
they're
no,
also
are
using.
your queens. I'm your fucking queen. I'm your wife. But
Drogo.
yeah, Khal Drogo. He was in one season, and people just he was a star of the show for them. the whole
I
series.
think he played the hell out that character.
Oh, he did.
Yeah,
I
He
liked him
did.
as
he
that
did.
character. I think
And
he
I love
did
the
do that.
relationship, how they fell in love, you know? She he
Yeah.
was such a hard character, and he really fell in love with her.
Mm-hmm.
It was
So
sweet.
yeah, and I think overall the show was dope. Because we've been out
It
here for
was.
3 hours. We're gonna really log out. It's already 10:30. But I think the show was just really dope all the way around. Like I said at the beginning of this, the writing, the cinematography, you know, the actors, just everything that they put into this show. So like now I get the hype. Because before I was just like, I didn't get it. Like, what is the hype? But once you really sit down and watch it, it makes you appreciate it. And it kind of reminds me of the stuff that we grew up on, you know, like the writing, the originality of it, you know, reminds me of those shows from like the 80s and the 90s where you had to sit and really pay close attention to what was being shown, you know, whereas like a lot of the stuff they make nowadays is more reality TV based. You can do and watch. Like, you don't have to pay attention because you kind of know what the storyline is going to bring you. But with something like this, you don't know what's going to happen next. So you're literally stuck, you know, glued to the television watching this, and you're, you know, going into these worlds, and you're really, you know, becoming attached to these characters and going through these ranges of emotions. And a lot of shows don't do that. So just, you know, much respect to them. And I'm so ready for this prequel. Like now that I'm all the way caught up, I cannot wait till the prequel start and everything else. So this has just been like a really good show this evening, a really good story.
It has.
We had a lot of people come through, and thank you to everybody who called in, and thank you, ladies. I appreciate your help. And I know Noir left earlier, but thank you guys so much for just helping host with me. So I think
it was so much fun.
It was fun, yeah.
I'm gonna need Rejoice to get up off John though. She says she needs his ass whooped one time. She ain't letting it go.
No, he needs to. Okay, somebody needs to do it. Okay,
he's just that dude. He just folks try him.
No, okay, but somebody needs to hand it to him.
I'm trying to think who did. I'm trying to think of when. I mean, John did get his ass whooped a few times. So that thin.
Okay, but
not
groups.
the Night Army.
I don't mean groups. I mean one person.
Who do you think could do it though? Who you think could do it?
Maybe Brienne or the Hound, but I don't know.
Brienne. Yeah, I would like to see Brienne and John go head to head.
I want to see John and Khal Drogo.
Now that'd be dope.
That'd be dope.
But they'd have to
especially after Khal Drogo found out that he killed his bitch. Oh no, it's over with.
That'd be interesting.
Life just beat John up.
Yeah, John might get
Yeah.
it.
So on that note, you guys, thank you guys so much for joining the Game of Thrones discussion. I hope you guys had a good time. I saw so many comments in the chat. Like they were like really, I mean, there was a lot of Game of Thrones fans in the chat. So I'm really happy to see that. So
I was talking about the pullout because earlier they said their pullout game's weak.
Oh, they was in the chat earlier, had me cracking up with all the shows and everything else. It was like there was like a whole series of bastards in like every single country. It was insane.
Literally.
On that note, you guys. Oh yeah, and thank you to anybody who sent the super chat. I didn't really get a chance to read them, but I'll go back and read them once the stream is over. But I really appreciate y'all for coming through. So it is now officially 10:30. So I'm getting ready to shut this down. So thank you guys once again, and thank you, ladies, for joining me as well.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
No problem. It was fun.
Definitely.
All
right. Can't wait to be back for the prequel.
That's right.
Definitely.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.